Meeting of the 20th of May 2026 open at 3:30. I'm under all present that mobile phones must be switched off before the meeting and that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed. Wingecarribee Shire Council acknowledges the Gundungurra and Tharawal people as traditional custodians of this land. I pay my respects to the traditional custodians, their ancestors who cared for this country for many thousands of years, and their elders and descendants who continue to care for country. I'd also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, including those here today. We have no apologies. We now move to the minutes. I'll confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of April 2026. I'll take these as read. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Foley. Now put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Are there any declarations of interest? No declarations. Okay. Councillors, I move a procedural motion that we resolve the order of business be changed in order to bring forward the following items by exception, and that the officer's recommendation for each item be adopted. The items I'd like to deal with by exception are item 8.2.9, sewer main upgrades and renewals, and item 8.3.1, investment reports. Is there anything on this list that anyone would like to speak to? Okay, I'll seek a seconder for that. Councillor Smith. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. 2 seconds, councillors.
Mr Mayor, I move to suspend standing orders for an urgent business matter.
Has there been notice given for this?
No, it's urgent, but I will explain what it is.
So, Councillor, so you want to hear a urgent business notice of business?
Yes, urgent business.
Okay, I'll just get direct to governance first before we do that. Okay, yep. What's your urgent business, Councillor?
Certainly, thank you, Mr Mayor. So, councillors, I move that this council acknowledge and thank the SES for their enormous service to this community, and I would like to invite you to join me to celebrate their special day today, which they called Wow Day, and the reason I'm wearing orange is they are all wearing orange today.
Okay.
So thank you again to the SES for your enormous service to this Shire, and I hope you enjoy your special Wow Day today.
Okay, thank you. And just to governance, so if I declare that's okay as a motion? We need to vote on that? Okay, so I need to first do a motion to approve us to put this motion on, is that correct? Okay. Okay, so the council has stated before you the matter of urgency. We will now put it to the vote as to whether to hear this. Apologies for the slow on this one, this is the first one we've done of these. I'll just let the computer program go there. Okay. Good? Yep. Okay, so now put this motion of urgency. So if you are all those in favour of hearing this urgency motion, please raise your hand. We have Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Fitzpatrick. All those against? Councillor Champion, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley. Sorry? I'm sorry, I'll pull the motion up. Anyway, I think it was a... So sorry. So if you want to hear this motion, you'll be voting in the affirmative. If you don't want to hear this motion, you'll be voting against. So we're not voting on the motion yet, only to hear it. Apologies. All those in favour of hearing this motion? Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Fitzpatrick. All those against? Councillor Champion, Councillor Smith. So we'll hear the urgency motion. Okay, Councillor Moylan, go ahead. Sorry, I'll get a seconder for first. Councillor Russell, now Councillor Moylan. Apologies for that, that is our first urgency motion. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Again, I move that this council acknowledge and thank the wonderful service that the SES have done for this community. Wonderful, wonderful work, and they help us all. And I am inviting you to help celebrate their special day today, which they call WOW Day, W-O-W. And they all wear orange today. So this is the only bit of orange I could find. But thank you again to SES for your service to Wingecarribee.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this? Okay. Councillor, I'll now put this motion. All those in favour? Councillor, that is carried unanimously. Okay, next we have item 8.2.1, Development Assessment Progress and Minister's Action Plan. Could I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Russell. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Moylan. Councillor Russell.
I have a number of questions.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The report notes that the league table does not report on all DAs, but does monitor most DAs received. What DAs does it not report on?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. McCabe.
Through you, General Manager, the Council League table is the New South Wales Government data published by the New South Wales Government. I want to make it clear that it's not Council's publishing. And on that league table, you can go to the definitions page, which outlines what is and isn't exhibited. But in summary, what I will say is there are two key things that are measured on the league table. And that are DAs, which are what essentially would be new DAs, so not modifications, not decision reviews, okay? So a fresh DA for a site and the lodgement of that DA, that is measured, and then the determination of that DA is measured. So if a DA is never determined, it will count as lodged, but it will never come up as in the data because if it's never determined. So what I'll say is it's new DAs, lodged and determined, so therefore new DAs that are withdrawn do not appear.
Okay.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager, is this, do shed DAs, if people are doing internal changes to their house, do those things show up on the extensions to the house? Do those DAs show up?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, back to you, Mr. McCabe.
For you, General Manager, if it is a new DA and it's not a modification and it's not a decision review, it is included in the data.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I would actually like to propose an amendment to my initial motion. And that is, directs the General Manager, number 3 is point 3, to organise an externally facilitated zone of uncomfortable debate between councillors and management on organisational culture at Wingecarribee Shire Council to support resolution of the leadership issues referred to by the New South Wales Minister for Planning, the Honourable Paul Scully, comma, that are impeding timely progress and effective management of development assessment approval times.
Can I get a seconder for this? Councillor Moylan. Councillor Ruskell.
Thank you. I have some further questions through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. I note the officer's response in relation to agritourism that appears to have missed the point of my question regarding how we are requiring proof with lodgement as to the ancillary nature of the activity. Why are we not requesting applicants provide documentation from the tax office to support successful lodgement of their DA, as is noted on our council website on the fact sheet regarding agri-tourism?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr McCabe, are you able to respond to that, or would you like to take it on notice?
I'll take it on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll send you through the exact wording of that question so it doesn't get confused. I've had a list, and I have another question through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. I've had a constituent today send me through a document of case law from the Land and Environment Court that I'll table at this meeting, where there are a number of cases where the issues got resolved with
Councillor,
minor chamber.
I'm just going to remind you that you're to ask succinct questions, please.
Why are we not finding ways to sit down with applicants and resolve issues prior to conciliation conferences when it's costing us over $2 million over the past couple of years in LEC fee charges for legals?
General Manager.
Mr McCabe, could you explain to the councillor the process that we go through and how we attempt to work with applicants to achieve what's in council's policies, and then what happens when that's not feasible? Thank you.
For you, General Manager, in relation to appeals, every appeal has its own individual merits. And in relation to the Section 34 conferencing process, what I will say is often applicants actually don't provide documentation in relation to their proposed amendments. They want to engage and meet based on no proposal other than their original drawings. And we have facts and contentions registered through the court on what the issues are. Now, with applicants, if they are mature and there's key points that can be resolved, we're open to those occurring, and we do have meetings with applicants during processes. Those requests we ask to be put through the lawyers for case control, lawyer to lawyer. Now, those requests come to us as officers, and with our lawyers we discuss it. But what I will say is the maturity of the information. What I'll say is councils will be aware, I'm assuming, now through their experience with state significant development, etc., that applicants have the right to amend plans after a decision is made, or even when it's a deemed refusal. Now, the maturity of those amendments may not be very mature, and they're wanting us to engage, and it's wasting our resources to actually determine other DAs when they haven't got their house in order. I don't mean to be disparaging against specific applicants or applicants in general, but that is often what happens.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, what are we doing to ensure that the DA refusals that we're sending out meet the standards required in terms of explaining why the DA is being refused when they are being refused on subjective grounds?
General Manager.
Through Mr McCabe.
Through you, General Manager, refusals as council, as a consent authority, can happen two ways, generally under delegation through council staff and through the local planning panel. Both of those ways have determination and also the reasons for that determination and an assessment report. They are published on our website post-determination. Anyone can read them.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, as a case study to help the Director understand, are you aware that there was an appeal rejected last night at 7:30 sent out to someone, and there were just clauses mentioned but no reasoning beyond the clauses listed to advise an applicant why and on what reasonable grounds their DA was being refused?
Mr Mayor, I'm very concerned that we're getting into individual DA matters on this issue, and I don't believe it's part of our councillor role.
Yeah, look, I'm going to rule that in favour of that. General Manager, is that something you're happy to take on notice due to the nature of it being about an individual? Or
To be fair, I think the Director understands DAs and planning, but what would assist him is to actually, if Councillor Russell can provide that to the Director after the meeting, that will actually assist us. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
I'm merely using a case study in terms of making sure that we're asking the Director, what are we doing to ensure that we're providing adequate information with any refusals and appeals?
Thank you, Councillor.
So, Mr Mayor, I have a question for you. Do you recall a year ago, about approximately, I had a conversation with you.
Yeah, can you ask me succinctly, please, Councillor?
Yes, I'm
Yes,
asking
what is your
you.
question?
Do you recall I reminded you that your role is not to defend staff on the matter of DAs, but your role is to represent the community on DAs?
I'm fully aware of what my role is, Councillor. Have you got any further questions?
Yes, I do. Are you aware that there needs to be a clear delineation between the role of the Mayor and the role of the General Manager?
There is, Councillor, and it's defined by an act.
Okay.
We're going to move on, Councillor.
So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay.
Are you aware, I know you're a keen learner, Mr Mayor.
Councillor
have
Russell, I'm going to
you-
call you to order one more time. I'll just refrain from comments from over here, please. Councillor, I'll give you another question.
Have you ever come across the zone of uncomfortable debate? As I know you're a keen learner, Mr Mayor. Have you come across that in any of your governance studies?
Actually, no, I don't know what a zone of uncomfortable debate is. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, I can speak
Okay,
to my,
so-
I will
okay,
speak
go
to
ahead,
my
go ahead,
amendment
Councillor,
now.
thank you.
We know that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Reviewing the recommendations that have been provided to us by the state government is very revealing as to systemic dysfunction that has existed in how we are managing the DA process. Now, I am not pointing at anyone here other than all of us in this room, because we know that the Minister has suggested that this is down to matters of leadership. This is down to understanding clearly our role.
Oh, apologies.
This is down to understanding our roles and responsibilities. We've got a critical timeline that we've been given, reviewing these recommendations from the Minister for Planning's office. The timeline we need to adhere to in order to retain some autonomy for our community in planning decisions, not to mention the members of our community who are living like refugees in sheds and in tiny homes, about to face another Southern Highlands winter, as they wait weeks, months, years for us to resolve a Section 68 approval so they can get a construction certificate, as our emphasis is all on our DA timeframes. A zone of uncomfortable debate is viewed as a necessary step for navigating complex challenges, particularly when teams are stagnant or ignoring critical problems. The goal is to move from comfortable, superficial conversations like the cheer squad that's been happening in this chamber into authentic, sometimes difficult dialogue that drives results. Zone of uncomfortable debate is often avoided, but it was popularised by Professor Cliff Bowman, and it encourages leaders, all of which we are here to be, to lean into uncomfortable, tense debates to achieve better decisions, deeper trust and breakthroughs rather than avoiding conflict. Key aspects. It's to address the elephants in the room that we have seen in the Minister's report, challenge assumptions and resolve major, often unaddressed organisational and personal issues. These discussions often feel tense, combative or uncomfortable, leading many to avoid them. The benefits, if we are courageous, like we've all got round our neck, apparently we're courageous, so let's demonstrate some courage here, are increased trust, better decision-making, improved performance and higher authenticity within teams. I've received submissions from my community upset at how the data has been presented in this report, like we are trying to pretend that everything is improving. But if we are still pretending, then we are not addressing the issues. These are cultural issues. It doesn't matter if we're telling the truth. That builds confidence with our community. It's when we try and hide that is a problem. When it's all about PR instead of communications, that points to cultural issues and us not dealing with the facts. We do need a safe space to do it. So I'm proposing this amendment. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain by dealing with the cultural issues that the Minister has referred to. He said it's leadership. Here we are in the room. We've got a tight time frame that arguably nobody could meet. So we've got to shape up or ship off our DAs to the state government. And I tell you what, I would prefer every time to have uncomfortable debates and shape up for our community. I've got two mums in Bundanoon who talk. One's living in a tiny home. Her 10-year-old child has grown up for the last 2 years in a tiny home. And she's still waiting because guess what? Our Section 68 approval, she's got that, but apparently they've got to check, double check, triple check before she gets a construction certificate. She's in a tiny home. She's been there for a couple of years. I've got another one who's in a shed.
Councillor.
Councillor. We need to empathise.
That's your 5 minutes. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have some questions through you, Mr Mayor, of the General Manager, through the General Manager. Councillor Russell said that that this DA performance thing is like we're trying to pretend that things are improving when they aren't. That seems like a pretty concerning accusation. Could the General Manager speak to that, please?
Amanda?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the report's before you. The Director and his team have prepared the report based on state government stats in the league table. They're the facts.
Okay.
Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will, speaking about leadership, I will call on you, Mr Mayor, to rule on an act of disorder. section 15.10 little d. We were hearing in this exact point this time last month.
So you have
Councillor Kent called out to Councillor Russell before she spoke, rubbish.
Yeah, I will
Now-
uphold that point of order.
Thank you,
Councillor.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Smith?
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Smith was first.
Sorry.
Yes, just one other question through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Russell also said there is systemic dysfunction in how we manage the DA process. I personally haven't seen that. I've seen an incredible improvement in how we manage the DA process. Could I ask the General Manager your views on that comment, please?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I've said in this chamber before that I believe that the director and his team are doing a great job under difficult circumstances. And again, I go back to the league table, and if you look at month on month, not average, because the average is across the 12 months, but you look at individual months and you can clearly see the improvement there. What you will see when the league table is reset, because it will be reset at the end of this financial year, a big change. Now, that didn't come because of a letter issued on the 6th of May. That came as a result of consistent, persistent, professional planners and the support around them getting on with the job and not being distracted. In terms of culture, I would say that the planning team are a good team. I know they meet every Wednesday before the council meeting. The director talks through the reports in front of the council today, and I'm sure a number of them will be watching. And what I would say is that we have built a very professional, capable team, and as I said, have worked under incredibly difficult circumstances with some of the commentary. But the results speak for themselves. If you look at the report that the director has prepared, they're not our figures. They're the state government's figures.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
One other question. Councillor Russell also mentioned that Mr Scully had concerns over leadership issues. Mr Mayor, I believe that you and the General Manager did have a meeting with Mr Scully. Was anything like that raised in that meeting?
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't need to say it again here. I've been very public about my vehement disagreement to Mr Scully. And I told him in person that exactly as the General Manager said, I said to him, you know, the clock resets, same conversation. He said, yeah, I understand that, and there's some acknowledgement there. Look, on leadership, again, I completely disagree with Councillor Russell. I think I publicly back the team. I think the team's terrific. I believe we have less than 90 DAs now, down from something like 400 plus when we first come in. Yeah, look, I've said more than enough publicly. I don't need to keep saying it. I fully support the team. I think the stats speak for themselves. I think in 2 months' time it won't be a conversation because we'll be up the leaderboard. Yeah, that's my commentary. Actually, and with that, I move an amendment to go back to the officer's recommendation.
Sorry, I don't think through Mr Mayor, I don't think two people have spoken.
That's okay. I can still move an amendment. It's not an amendment. It was her motion, and it was seconded and accepted. Councillor Russell moved it, so it becomes her motion. So it's not an amendment. So this is your motion. Now I'm amending your motion,
No, it was actually an amendment because I moved the motion.
and it was
then-
accepted. So it was seconded, and then you accepted it as your motion. So it becomes your motion. So
Okay,
I'll move
I'll
an
give you that.
amendment, and we'll remove item 3. And now, because that's an amendment, I'll need a seconder. Councillor Foley, do you accept that, Councillor Russell?
Are we allowed to move an amendment before we've actually had 2 people speaking for and 2 against?
Oh, it's not an amendment. Yours was an amendment. Yours was a motion.
Well, yeah, even then? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I now put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Moylan, will you have your hand up? Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith. All those against? Councillor Moylan, Councillor Russell, that is carried. Okay, we'd now like to speak to this motion. Councillor Foley.
Okay, I have a bit of a different take on to my colleagues' comments before, but what a great result for the last 2 months of March and April. Councillors determined 81 DAs for that period, and 72% of those 81 determined DAs have met the minister's timeframe expectations, which actually exceeds the New South Wales average of 68% for the same timeframe. This is a good sign of things to come for Wingecarribee when the clock resets at the end of June. When we're talking about improved performance, if we look back at the financial year to date, Wingecarribee has determined over 400 DAs, with 60% of those meeting the minister's timeframe expectations. And is very close to the set timeframe of 71% meeting the expectations. And all of this has been done with Council's own Development Assessment Action Plan as published in the attachments. It shows very clearly the huge impact that our own internal processes have made in addressing the backlog and reducing DA times for our residents, bringing Wingecarribee in time with, or in the case of the months of March and April, exceeding the state average. So I'm pleased to endorse point 1 of the officer's recommendation. However, for the second point, to endorse the Minister for Planning and Public Spaces Action Plan, while I will endorse this point today, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the content and timing of this action plan. Looking back at the timeline leading up to the issuing of the action plan 2 weeks ago on the 6th of May, that's 10 months since the Minister's expert planners visited Council in June 2025. 2 months before the expert planners visit, in April 25, we adopted our own Wingecarribee Shire Council Development Assessment Action Plan, which we see on page 5 and 6 of the attachments, where there are 17 different actions aimed to shift the dial on our DAs, meeting the expected determination timeframes, improving quality and timeliness of service while monitoring costs, etc. The Minister had 10 months to issue us with an action plan. If we're measuring that in days, which seems to be their preferred unit of measure, that's 327 days. That's more than 3 times the 105 days that they expect councils to determine a DA in. If only they could lead by example in delivering a timely and meaningful plan. What this shows is that our DA team has been functioning effectively, working consistently at overcoming the backlog and reducing the quantity of DAs outstanding, as well as the number of days to determination for each DA. Credit here where credit is due. The significant progress that has been made is entirely up to the Wingecarribee Shire Council planners, from the director to the cadets and everyone in between. Our team has been and continues to do an effective, efficient and expert job on the massive task of bringing our DAs back on track.
Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There is an expectation in the room, particularly with the majority of councillors, that I have come to here today to criticise council. Well, it is a fact, not a criticism, that Wingecarribee are again the slowest in the state when it comes to development assessment timeframes. That is a fact. But I am not here to criticise the director and his team. I am not going to criticise them, and I am not going to continually bring staff into the middle of this issue. This is not about the director, and Mr McCabe, you and your team have done an extraordinary good job in very difficult circumstances, so thank you. Now, Minister Scully, Mr Paul Scully, has confirmed in Parliament, it's on Hansard, and in an extraordinary interview on 2ST Radio, and I acknowledge Mr Day, who is in the gallery today. Minister Scully has squarely put leadership of this council, meaning yourself, Mr Mayor, and the General Manager, in the middle of this issue. He has not minced his words, he has been very clear, and he has encouraged residents and all of the councillors to put the hard questions to leadership, yourself, Mr Mayor, and the General Manager. The fact we have been the worst in the state for a long, long time is not the fault of the Minister. It is not the fault of the Department of Planning. It is certainly not the fault of the Director, Mr McCabe, and his team. It is a matter of leadership. These are the Minister's words. He cannot be clearer. So the hard questions I have, Mr Mayor and General Manager, are: one, can you please listen to the community? Instead of spending so much time on statistics, and instead of spending so much time accusing people of manufacturing facts, please start listening to the community. Listen to the mums and dads who are just wanting to build their homes. Listen to the grandparents who are just wanting to modify their garage without having to go to court. Listen to the tradies, Mr Mayor, the builders who are just wanting to work and get an income. Listen to the small businesses who are just wanting to open a restaurant and serve our community. That's number one. The community voices, Mr Mayor, are not the wolves. They are the people that we serve. Secondly, my second request, please, leadership, step aside and give Mr McCabe, the Director, and the staff the space they need. The space they need to implement the Minister's action plan in full. They know exactly what to do. They have got a depth of experience. I have heard Mr McCabe quote the Act back to front. They know exactly what to do. They just need to get on with the job. And three, I didn't want to be in this position, but it's time to get direct. Mr Mayor and the General Manager, the community are calling out for you both to resign. Now, that's everywhere in the public forum I've been in.
Councillor Mola, we have some point of orders here.
Yeah. I failed to see how this relates to DAs. This is getting very...
Yeah, it's getting out of hand. I'm going to uphold that. Councillor Molan, do you want to continue? Yes? She's talking about relevance. She's talking about relevance to the councillor. Russell, you can interrupt somebody on a point of order for starters. And the point of order that was raised, was that the councillor is off topic to the development, and I'm upholding that order. So we're going to allow the councillor to continue and get back to the topic at hand, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do want to say that this is me relaying the message from the community, and it's not a valid point of order. There is no clause regarding relevance for point of order, but I'll continue.
Councillor, there absolutely is, but please continue.
I'm happy for you to point to me in the Code of Meeting Practice, Mr Mayor. I have not seen...
If you keep going, I'll get governance to look that up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this calling out from the community is everywhere. The social media, particularly Highlands Opinion, public forums that Councillor Russell and myself have gone to, on your own Facebook page, Mr Mayor. This is, and I believe there is a petition circulating, but that's all I will say. I will move on. Lastly, I want to thank the Minister. Thank you,
That's your
Mr.
time. Thank you.
Minister.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Russell, have you already spoken?
Apparently not to this, because apparently that was
Yeah,
something different.
it's still your motion, Councillor. You have spoken. So
Well-
you'll get a right of reply.
Well then, could you please clarify with governance at what point I put in an amendment, or what point we're back to the original motion that it was moved from?
So
I've either spoken to my amendment or I've spoken to this. I'm not sure anymore.
apologies, yeah, so we're in the amendment still. So yeah, apologies. Yes, you can speak to this amendment. Go ahead, Councillor.
I would like to say that in response to Councillor Smith's contentions, that there's nothing to see here, all you have to do is look at the attachments in the report and the key findings of where there are issues to show that there is some stagnation in how we are managing DAs, which is causing undue delay. I cannot support that we go directly to this without addressing the critical culture issues that will eat any strategy that we've got to deal frankly and fairly in a quality way with our DA processing. The issues that I flagged earlier to do with over $2 million over each year for the past couple of, over $1 million each year in legal fees for the conciliation conference, because we are not managing our process right. We had an administrator who came in and said mums and dads should be able to manage this DA process without any problems at all. And yet we are having mums and dads living in tiny homes and sheds. We know that when the General Manager took office, it was 74 days. Then we blew out to the worst council in the state. And we're still working our way back, but we're hearing of delays with lodgements being rejected when there's no clear reason for their rejection. We're hearing of DAs being refused. We're hearing of RFIs for invoices and receipts, and for some reason the processing doesn't continue again until someone clicks on an email for a receipt for an RFI. And all of these cultural issues are identified in the attachment if Councillor Smith reads the details. Now, these are cultural issues, and the Minister has suggested, and we know that as a governing body and as a council, we set the tone from the top. Now, I applaud everyone who is working in this council. I really do. The challenges are obvious. And it's up to us to start leading by example, having constructive debates, ensuring there's a clear delineation between the role of the governing body and the role of management. So no, Mr Mayor, you don't get to call the DA processing team my team. They're not your team. You're here to represent the community.
Thank you, Councillor.
And you are here to ask the General Manager why we're not there yet. Why is it that when you came into office, General Manager, we had DAs at 74, it blew out to the worst in the state, and now we have got this litany of issues. And sure, we can do quick and dirty processing. We can reject DAs and have them in the conciliation conference, and our ratepayers have to fork out more money. Should we just add that to our fees and charges list that we vote on next month? Make sure you've got another, how many tens of thousands in the bank so you can actually get your DA approved after we talk to you. We outsource our decision making to the LEC. It's not okay. We could be doing better. We could be having frank and fearless discussions about what are we doing about quality? What are we doing about Section 68s when we're putting all of our energy into DAs and still not managing to get there? These are important cultural issues to be addressing, and nobody, other than a couple of us, have been courageous enough to say we can do better. It's up to us. It's not up to pointing at anyone else. We're not pointing at the junior planners. We're not pointing at the cadets. We want to make sure they survive here and thrive, not lose more to other local government areas. And you know what? It's okay to be telling the truth. When I said, Councillor Smith, that we weren't showing the full picture, it's because we chop half the graph off. Or you include a zero in terms of how many other local government areas in the state are meeting the timeframes. We put zero instead of, I had submission from a constituent telling me where everybody else's DA's average timeframe was. Why didn't we put that in? It's PR, it's spin, it's propaganda. No. At the end of the Super Mario Brothers, it says, there's a little star that comes along and it says, you can't hide the truth. It only makes it louder.
Thank you, Councillor. That is your time. Councillor Smith.
Can you turn? Thank you. Thank you. I just, first of all, just like to speak to a misrepresentation. Councillor Russell said I said there's nothing to see here. That's not correct, so I just want to clarify that, please. I'm also really concerned about the level of emotion that's happening in the chamber today, and to make the comment that a professional report put forward by our professional team at council is, and I quote, propaganda, is really inflammatory and concerning. And so I think in relation to this, I want to remind...
I think councill's in the middle of a point of order.
No, I'm speaking to the motion,
Are you speaking to the motion?
to the amendment or whatever it is.
Okay. So you got a point of order?
No,
please?
I'd ask questions before.
Okay. Continue on.
So,
Ms. Smith.
sorry, just to be clear, I wanted to start by
Okay,
just
thank you.
clarifying a misrepresentation, but this is part of me speaking.
Too easy.
All right? To infer that this is propaganda and that our professional team at council would put forward propaganda is highly upsetting to me. I think that it is clear that the team have worked incredibly hard to move the dial on this most difficult issue. And I think that to make it emotive and to really get away from... I want to remind all councillors that we are here to make decisions. We are here to represent the community. In relation to representing the community and hearing their voices, I have heard numerous positive responses from the community saying, oh my goodness, the DAs are turning around. I've heard that from builders, I've heard that from residents in the community. And so I don't take, Councillor Moylan made the point that there's a lot of information on Highlands' opinion. Personally, I think that council has a good community feedback process. I don't take a faceless online forum as my source of information. That's my personal approach. I also respect that the council team has a strong process of getting community feedback. So I'd like to reaffirm that I think this is a great report. I think also that Councillor Moylan made the point that the team need the space they need to implement the Minister's action plan. To Councillor...
Point of order. I'm sorry, but the Code of Meeting Practice is very clear on what a point of order is. It's an alleged breach of a provision of this code. And 15.2 requires the councillor to state that provision. So it's a point of order is not an opportunity to give a little lecture.
Councillor, you've raised the point of order and then lectured me.
I'm in your hands, Mr Mayor, but...
So Councillor Smith was just simply speaking and you raised the point of order against her?
Well, yes, the point of order that I'm raising against Councillor Smith is 15.10F, imputing improper motives, and unfavourably personally reflecting on another councillor, being myself, and Councillor Russell.
In stating about what you said about Highland's opinion?
No, just unfavourably personal reflections.
I didn't say that. I won't uphold that order. Councillor Smith, please continue.
Sorry, I'll raise the same point of order in regards to Councillor Smith suggesting that we're getting emotional in this chamber when we're expressing the views of the community. And that's a point of order, if you want it is that
Okay, I don't
it's
need to take
inclusive,
councillor.
decisions respect the diverse needs and interests of the local community.
Councillor, I will acknowledge that there is a heightened sense of emotion in here. That's okay. I mean, it's not wrong, but it has been a bit heightened. So I'll leave that comment there. Councillor Smith, would you like to continue?
Yes, and just to say, I really, whenever I make mention of anything that councillors or staff say, I do make a point of explaining when I'm quoting to ensure there's no misunderstanding. So really, I really want to reinforce, and to the point before, the Minister's action plan, as Councillor Foley basically stated so wisely. It took 10 months to get a response from that, from the minister. I think that the team have moved forward and not waited for an action plan. They've actually taken action. So I commend the team. I do not see any concerns. I see nothing but hard work here. And I'd like to reinforce that to the General Manager, to Mr McCabe and all of the team. And I think that I'd also like to reinforce that the Mayor, you have also made a clear focus on DAs, and I think that we're seeing the results.
Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Yeah, I'd just like to put some of this, my community says you're not doing well, my community says we are doing well, into perspective. As we know, back in February, we had the, every 2 year, the Community Satisfaction Survey published, and that result is in my mind, is an endorsement of the leadership of this council. And as per the leadership of Micromex, who run these things across the state, have literally run hundreds of these things over about 2 decades, this council, the leadership of this council received the highest bounce in a 2 year period in the history of these surveys. So to have here say, my community says people are telling me this. We've had a community satisfaction survey that we've run since, I think, 2009, every 2 years. This is run consistently across many councils in the state, and Wingie-Carriby Shire Council just got the biggest bounce in the history of these surveys. And it's an independent, scientifically run survey. So if there's individual community members that have issues with a DA, and yes, when we first got elected, we received many emails with people who are not happy with the progress of a DA or response. Those things have died completely down. And I reiterate Councillor Smith's comments. I know several builders. I've been doing work done on my own place. I have an architect around yesterday. The feedback from the people on the ground who are doing the work for clients is Wingie-Carriby's DA situation has improved immensely. Unfortunately, what we have is one stat. We have, because of the reporting, we have one stat that people who want to make, a pig's ear out of a silk, almost a silk purse, one stat about backlog, and averages to do with backlog, because we inherited, when the new council came in and the new director came in, we had a number of projects that were sitting in a backlog. And so, unfortunately, with our reporting, we have one stat that still gives people who want to make a pig's ear out of a sow's purse, gives them the ability to come into the chamber and talk things down. Let's just talk about facts. Let's go back to the biggest bounce in the conducting of community satisfaction surveys. And I know there's a couple of councillors in this room that don't like to acknowledge that survey. It's almost like a dirty word. They're the facts, not your hearsay about, well, people tell me. If people tell you they've got an issue with a DA, they need to do what everyone else does, which is write to Mr McCabe or write to one of us, and we will, as we can, go through the process and represent them in the process if there's any issues. As I say, we got many emails when we first got in. They've died right down. So, Councillor Russell, if you are getting representations from people who are in tiny homes or haven't got their Section 68 approved, I invite you to put those, to receive something in writing from those individuals and send it to all the councillors so that we can take it up with the with the right leadership. Hearsay and, oh, I've talked to this person is meaningless. DAs are individual items that go through a process, and if people have concerns, they need to contact us, and you need to put that in writing and share it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, question to Councillor Kent. Councillor Kent, do you know anyone who participated in that community satisfaction survey?
Yes.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor Kent, are you aware that the structure of that questions were designed that
Look,
if you were... Yes,
guys,
it is. Yes, it is. Are you aware that the structure of the questions in that survey were designed that if you weren't satisfied, you were agreeing to a rate rise?
I've been asked a question, can I please?
Just do a response, and then we're going to get back onto the topic of the DA. So have a response, and then we're going to move on.
The questionnaire is a standard questionnaire that's been used for years. What you've just talked about is, yes, it is. The questions are standards. And it reiterates my point of view a minute ago. That survey, for a couple of councillors in this room, is a dirty word, and you've just demonstrated that.
Okay.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, was that the standard survey
Councillor,
that we've been using, or was it specific?
I'll call you to order. I've just stated to the whole room that we're going to move away from this conversation back to the topic before us. Would anybody else like to speak to this? Now, keeping in mind we are still in my amendment, we have to hear the amendment, then we are back in the main motion. So I think I'm going to put this amendment, and it's not over. We're just putting this amendment, then we're back, and that becomes if it's in the affirmative, that would become the motion. So all those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Harrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. All those against? Councillor Russell. That is carried. So now we're back at the motion. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Smith?
Just a question. Did we get clarification as yet on the point of orders and how they work, or will that take a little longer?
I just need to find one specific clause, but essentially a point of order is when you breach the Code of Meeting Practice. The Code of Meeting Practice says you can only speak to items that are on the agenda and that they're subject of a council report. So we need to stay on topic. Yep.
Okay. I'll now put this...
Just to assist, the Code of Meeting Practice refers to relevance with regards to questions, and it's quite clear on 9.13. It's not about anything, but the actual point of relevance is referring to questions. But I do have a question, Mr Mayor, through to Councillor Kent. When you refer to hearsay, Councillor Kent, what are you actually referring to?
What I'm referring to is people coming to the chamber and saying generalisations, and I know somebody who is living in a tiny house and they have problems with their 68. We have no names, we have no paper trail. It's just trying to make an argument that we're not doing well when the report says the opposite.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, have you got another question?
No, just I want to speak to a misrepresentation. What I was referring to in my speech is clearly not hearsay. It's on Hansard. The Minister, Paul Scully, has been very clear about this issue, and also the 10,000 people, members on Highlands Opinion, many of which have been very clear about this issue. It's all documented there,
Okay,
including
thank you, Councillor.
Hansard.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, Councillor Russell, would you like your right of reply?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to say to all of the staff working on this issue, I acknowledge the challenge that you're going to have over the next period of time so that we're complying with all of the Minister's directives. Challenge is growth potential. This is, as we all acknowledge, a critical issue for our community. And if I am robust in how I am challenging the General Manager as to the cultural issues that could be compounding issues rather than resolving them, that I perceive we need to acknowledge, it's because I'm representing my community and those in the community who have made representations, professionals, mums and dads, businesses, town planners, a spectrum, Councillor Kent, of individuals who have made representations to me. And we need to respect each other and each other's roles. And I am being respectful of staff in this. And in fact, if I was merely to keep on saying, hey, listen, you're doing fantastic, don't you? Just keep on going, then that's not actually necessarily helping when it comes to saying we can't keep pretending, we have to start telling it like it is, because people are feeling it like it is. And when we pretend any otherwise, it offends those who have had their lives on hold. So this is about us as a council demonstrating empathy, which is one of our goals to do. Now, empathy takes courage. It takes putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It does actually take admitting that sometimes we're wrong. It's all right to apologise. It's all right to say, yeah, we know we can do better. What isn't all right is pretending that issues aren't issues or that we've got it all right yet. What is an issue is that when we make it all about a number being the destination and not about the quality of the work we're doing, if we're just refusing things to get them off our list or not allowing them to be lodged, just so we don't have to count that number because we've got a target, that's not okay. What's okay is when we actually set KPIs, meet them. We didn't get under the minister's time frame in a year, Mayor, as was your election commitment. How about starting to speak for our community instead of just being the cheer squad? Minister, if you are watching this now, I will speak to Minister Scully. Thank you for your advice. I don't agree with some of my colleagues who've denigrated the time you've taken. I know that it's not all about us, and perhaps we should have gotten our act together on these issues, because I looked through that list in the recommendations of the key findings, and from the stories I'm hearing, we've still got all of that work ahead of us. So thank you for your oversight, and thank you for your continued oversight and driving of the leadership of this council. I know that we can do better. I know that we will do better. Thank you.
Okay, I'll now put this motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 8.2.2, Comprehensive Koala Plan and Management. The recommendation is page 11. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Duffy. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Smith. Councillor Duffy.
I don't have anything significant to say about this. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Russell.
Through you, Mayor, to the General Manager. What assurances do we have that we are taking the lessons learned from Campbelltown into consideration with this process that's identified on the business paper today?
General Manager.
Could Councillor Russell please be a bit clearer in her question? Thank you.
Councillor.
Well, I would like that question to be taken on notice, because I
Okay, we'll take that on
apologise,
notice.
and
Sweet.
I'll ask you
Yep.
another one that might help.
That's all right, we can take that on
as well.
notice.
Yep.
Anyone else like to speak to
And
this?
yes, I've got another question. Does the successful tender...
Sorry.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, we actually need the question in order to take the question on notice. Thank you.
Then we'll
The
take it on
question
notice.
for on notice is, what assurances do we have that we are taking the lessons learned from Campbelltown in relation to CKPOMs into consideration with this process that we've engaged with? That's the question. I can send it through to governance. My next question is...
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mr Mayor. Councillor, could you perhaps, to assist the director, can you please explain what the lessons were from Campbelltown that you believe we should take on board, because that then will help us help you and respond to your question. Thank you.
My understanding is, and I've been advised by someone who's been aware of the issues that have taken place in Campbelltown, and it's been in relation to, say, people needing to look after trees that aren't native trees for a koala plan of management. There's been some inconsistencies and inefficiencies in how that process was applied. I guess one of the things could be my next question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, next
which
question,
is,
councillor. Yep.
Does the successful tender have any demonstrated history of preparing any other koala plan of management? And does it have staff on or through other contractual arrangements, like who are a New South Wales DQ recognised koala expert?
General Manager.
Mr McCabe, would you like to respond or take it on notice?
I'll respond. What I will say is there was an RFQ done. We had industry respond. Lodge were actually one of the consultants of which we recommended to negotiate with as part of our tender for DA assessment ecology services. This council resolved to go back out to market and Lodge chose not to submit on that second round. But what I will say is they have experience, my own personal observations in this is they have experience simply because Lodge historically have been consultants for applicants in relation to koala studies. But in relation to their history on adopted KPOMs of other councils, I could refer to the Manager of Waste and Environmental Services if he knows any additional information on that space, but otherwise I could take that on notice.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, and also Councillor Champion.
Thank you. I'd just like to speak in favour of this broadly. Wingecarribee is one of the most important koala landscapes in New South Wales. We're not talking about a scattered or declining remnant population alone. We're talking about two recognised koala strongholds that remain critical to the future survival of the species in the state. And that gives this council and this community a unique responsibility. Across New South Wales, koalas continue to face mounting pressures from habitat loss, fragmentation, road strike, climate impacts, disease and increasing development pressure. Once habitat is lost or corridors are severed, it can take generations to restore, if they can be restored at all. That's why this work matters so deeply. A comprehensive koala plan of management is not simply another environmental document. It is a strategic framework to ensure that future planning decisions properly recognise, protect and connect the habitats that koalas depend on to survive. Importantly, this work builds on more than a decade of partnership, research and restoration already undertaken, and reflects years of scientific mapping, community effort and collaboration with the New South Wales Government. Our koala populations are still here, and that's increasingly rare in New South Wales. We have an opportunity and an obligation to act while those populations remain viable rather than waiting until recovery becomes far too difficult and too costly. This plan is about ensuring that koalas remain part of the Wingecarribee landscape for generations to come, and I strongly support the motion, and let's get this moving as fast as possible, please.
Thank you. Okay, I'll also speak to this. Okay, right a reply to Duffy? No? Okay, I'll now put this motion. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously. Item 8.2.3, Wingecarribee Shire Council. Sorry, Councillor Kent. Council, recommendation 14. You want to move that, Councillor Kent? Okay, can I get a seconder? Councillor Foley. Councillor Kent. Do you want to have a break while you pull that up, or you just want to keep going? Okay.
I'd like to move it with an amendment, please.
Okay, so we'll just be moving that as your motion, so I'll re-get a seconder after you give me that those words.
Okay. And I'm open to others' feedback following the community, the public forum. So adding to that sentence, with the addition of endorse the draft submission, with the addition of with the addition of the removal of tree removal where they are not heritage items from table 6. Tree removal where they are not heritage items from...
I might move.
Yeah, I
so
can
much
do
to
the
have a break.
wording.
I give the words.
Yep.
Can I get a second for that? Councillor Foley, all those in favour? Councillor Chairman, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Patrick, all those against? Councillor Moylan. We will carry. We will resume at 4:50. In Councillor Kent's motion, so I'll need a seconder for that, please. Councillor Smith. Yep, I'll read it out. I'll just wait till it pulls up there. So Councillor Kent's motion is that Council endorse the draft submission at attached 1 to the New South Wales Department of Planning, Housing Infrastructure on the draft statewide community participation plan with the additional removal of tree removal where they are not heritage items from table 6, development exempt from public exhibition and notification. That's been seconded by Councillor Smith. Councillor Kent, you have the floor.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Manager of Strategic Outcomes. She's here, excellent. And the Director, Community in Place for the quality of the analysis and this draft submission. For example, the picking up of the proposed exemptions of applying to residential flat buildings and shop top housing. I can imagine in the Wingecarribee both of those things would need some visibility. This amendment proposes an additional exemption for the purpose of the discussion paper around tree removal, significant tree removal, and it's come from listening to Edna Carmichael in the public forum, and I'm open to others' feedback on this, but that's where it is. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Farrell.
I'll speak against that amendment. There's probably unintended consequences to the tree thing. I'm all for saving trees, but not at the expense of people's houses. You get to the situation where people want to build a house, there's a tree that's going to cause or potentially cause problems for that resident and their house, safety issues, and it's a real problem for those people themselves. So there shouldn't be things put in place to impede the removal of a tree that is going to cause significant or may cause significant problems to the building of that house.
Thank you.
And I could probably quote a real live situation where this has happened, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Councillor Kent.
A question to the General Manager through you, Mayor, please. Could I just get some comment on whether this exclusion would be limited? Is the intention of the paper to limit it to residential, or is it more broadly? I was thinking more in terms of maybe commercial development, for example, where there's significant community trees, etc. So in addition to residential, but I'd appreciate some expert planning advice. Thank you.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Manager Strategic Outcomes.
Through you, General Manager. The tree removal where they're not heritage items relates to residential and related uses in the current draft community participation plan, so it would be for residential DAs.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
I have a question of the General Manager through you, Mr. Mayor. Do you see any concerns with this particular aspect that Councillor Kent has moved beyond the officer's recommendations? Are there any unintended consequences, as Councillor Farrell alluded to?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Linton.
Through the General Manager, it relates to the notification of DAs. So at the moment, the draft statewide community participation plan is saying that it doesn't need to be notified. So it just will impact potentially whether a DA has to be notified or not.
Okay. I'd like to speak to this. Councillor Russell.
Through a question to you, Mr. Mayor. So we're in a motion, not in an amendment. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay, I would like to propose an amendment. That the public forum presentations, sorry, that would be that council endorse that council endorse 1, the draft submission at attachment 1. And then at the end of attachment 1, start point 2 is and point 2. The submissions by Edna Carmichael and Jessica Ryle, R-Y, Jessica Linton, Jessica Ryle, and made in the public forum. As, so that would be a comma after that. I'm sorry. Yeah, a comma as council's submission to the New South Wales. Yeah. Well, sorry, yeah, everything else you've got there, thank you. And take away point 2. So after public forum, that would be at the end. Or maybe, sorry, as council as council submission, we can put that up with that council endorse the following. As council's submission to the New South Wales Department, that would work. 1, the draft submission, and then secondly, the submissions by Edna Carmichael and Jess Ryle made in the public forum.
Councillor Kent, do you accept that amendment?
No, and I'm happy to explain why.
No, we'll have to get a seconder. Hang on, I'll just wait till the words are fixed up.
So just the 2 after the 2 needs to be removed. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Kent hasn't accepted that amendment, so you'll need a seconder for that amendment. Councillor Moylan, Councillor Russell.
Our community have very real experience of what happens if we don't have adequate community consultation in state significant developments. If we just look at the situation with the proposed Plasrefine now repoly issue, that facility would actually be built if it had not been for community participation. We would love to be at a stage and a point where we could trust the process that the state government undertakes to assess state significant developments. However, I don't believe that our community have confidence at this point that we don't still need to work in collaboration with our community so that our community have a voice in what they want where. We're at a critical situation now where we're going to have proposals for data centres, power plants, all sorts of industry. If we could trust the process, then we'd be okay. But we know that we need to work in partnership with the community that actually elects us and actually pays for the salaries of everyone who works in those departments to make sure that what is being proposed takes into account local knowledge. There is no voice more authentic than the voices of Edna Carmichael and Jessica Ryle in communicating this to the state government, and that's why I'm making this proposal.
Thank you. I'll speak against this simply for the fact that Edna and Jessica can make a submission as we can to the exact same department. Councillor Smith?
I'd also like to speak against this. Whilst I respect the submissions and the speeches by Edna and Jessica, I feel uncomfortable submitting a document on behalf of council from those two people when we haven't actually read that. We need to take community consultation seriously, and simply because two people speak at a public forum does not necessarily mean they represent all views. So I would feel uneducated and frankly wouldn't feel this was good governance.
Thank you. And I'd like to speak to this. Councillor Champion. Okay, all right. Anyway, I will now put this amendment. All those in favour? Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, all those against? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Patrick. We're back at the motion, which was a change from the officer's original recommendation. Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Champion.
Thank you. Look, I'd just like to say there have been a lot of contributions to this conversation. The staff's draft submission raises important and largely well-founded concerns, and I support those concerns. However, in the last week and even in the last few hours, I have heard some concerns that go deeper than what's in the submission. With respect to Councillor Kent's amendments, I do support what you're trying to achieve, but I think there are some additional things that have been raised with me, including in the public forum, but also more broadly. I'm trying on the fly as quickly as possible to work out a way to accommodate those things. I would like to quickly ask some questions of the Director of Communities in place. Yeah, pardon me, through you, Mr. Mayor, a question for the General Manager. To ensure that my amendment is realistic. If we were to endorse the draft submission and request you, General Manager, to publish the draft submission on Council's website as soon as practicable and invite written feedback from councillors, community members and stakeholders for a period of 7 days, so a very short exhibition period. Circulate any submissions received to councillors prior to final lodgement, and then delegate authority to yourself in consultation with the Mayor to make minor amendments to council's submission. Would that be an achievable goal?
No.
Gentlemen.
Okay. Great. That one I can scrap. Okay, then in that case, I will have an amendment with a list of things that I would like to add to our submission. If you could possibly give me 3 minutes to send that through to governance, I would be very grateful.
Yeah, do you want to defer that to the end of the meeting, or do you want to do it right now?
I don't mind.
Governance, are we able to defer? Change order? Yeah, okay. All right, we'll just have a, yeah.
Very quick.
Yep, go ahead. We'll move a 5-minute motion to break for 5 minutes and come back. A seconder? Councillor Foley, all those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Patrick, all those against? Councillor Moylan, sorry. Okay, we'll resume at 5:13. Where we're at was Councillor Champion's amendment. Do you want to have a quick read through this, Councillor Kent, before I ask you if you want to accept it?
Yes, I will.
Okay, this becomes the motion. Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Russell. Have you already spoken, Councillor Russell? No? Okay, go ahead.
I want to thank Councillor Kent and Councillor Champion for working on this submission and collaborating, and I want to thank the staff, the council officers, the director and manager, because I know I can see the amount of work that's been put in, and we should all be always working to see how we can potentially make things a bit, improve things, a bit more comprehensive. And I see that this has addressed the key points in the submissions that were made in the public forum, which so we can help the state government make this process consistent with community expectations in the Wingecarribee. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
A question through you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned earlier that the public could make submissions. Are you aware of, or perhaps through the General Manager, of the deadline for that, please?
In June, but General Manager?
Yep, Mr. McCabe.
Through you, General Manager, I believe it's the 3rd of June.
Okay. Okay, anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Champion.
Thank you. Just given that I put those amendments on the table, and thank you, Councillor Kent, for accepting those into the motion, I just wanted to speak to them very quickly. Sorry, just one second. I want to emphasise that this is not an attempt to reject the officer's submission, which I think is very good. However, through the course of those public submissions and discussion, those issues warrant inclusion, and I'm glad that they're on the table now. Broadly, those amendments do 4 things. Firstly, they strengthen environmental and community participation safeguards, particularly around tree removal, exhibition periods for major environmental impact statements and complex state significant development proposals, consultation requirements relating to Aboriginal cultural heritage and country. Secondly, they clarified that new digital tools and early engagement processes should complement public participation and not unintentionally weaken or replace formal notification and exhibition rights. Third, they refined some of the language in the submission so that it better reflects procedural fairness and community confidence as important planning outcomes in themselves. And finally, they improved the proposed compliance declaration approach. Overall, those amendments are intended to improve balance, so thank you for considering it as it is.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to speak to this. Okay, I'll now put this right of reply to David. Sorry, Councillor Kent. Apologies.
No, thanks. I'm good.
Okay, all those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent. All those against? Councillor Farrell, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. That is carried. Item 8.2.4, Youth Council Rove. I will move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Champion. Look, I'll just say that it's been an outstanding program. I've loved hearing what the youth have to say and how they've been feeding into our processes here, and I hope that you will support continuing the program on. Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree, an outstanding initiative, and thank you for leading the way on this. I do have a question to you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed in the terms of reference, it refers in section 8A that the meetings are on a consensus basis. What does that mean to you, and are you comfortable with consensus basis?
To me, consensus means that we're in agreement with where the meeting's held. Is there an issue with that, Councillor?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. consensus means everybody agrees with the motion, everybody's the same. And therefore, my concern is that there's no free thinking, debate, that there's not an environment where the youth feel they can come to these meetings and have healthy, respectful debate. So that did jump out to me, that it says that the meetings are on a consensus basis.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Champion, you had your hand up next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just want to speak in favour of this and just reflect a little on the Youth Council program at the end of its period of piloting. I think the value of hearing directly from young people throughout this process about their vision for our places, for our community, for our strategies has been huge. It's given young people a genuine seat at the table in council, and the insights that they've provided have been concrete, they've been constructive, they've been grounded in their lived experience, and they have actually changed some of our decisions in this chamber, which I think is really important. It's also provided those participants with real experience in leadership, with civic participation and understanding how our systems work, with participating in governance processes, and not in a tokenistic way, but in a way that's genuinely shaped what we do. So accommodating and responding to their ideas has made our work stronger, I believe, and more informed. I want to acknowledge the continuing improvement in the way the sessions were facilitated and conducted throughout the pilot. There was sort of improvement in the feedback from the participants in how much they enjoyed the sessions over that year, which really speaks to the attentiveness of the staff and their attempts to improve the process, which is great. It's clear that a great deal of effort and care has gone into creating that space where young people did feel welcome, able to express themselves, respected and empowered to contribute meaningfully. I really want to sincerely thank all the students who've taken time to participate in it so far, and as well as thank the teachers and the council staff who made the program possible. And personally, being in part of the Youth Council so far has genuinely been one of the greatest pleasures I've had on this council, so I'm proud to support its continuation.
Of course. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have a question of either yourself or Councillor Champion, who have been closely involved. When Councillor Moylan said that her question's around consensus and that it's not a safe place for debate, the feedback I've heard is...
What's your point of order, Councillor?
Improper motives, section 15.10. I certainly did not say it is not a safe place. I said I want to make sure that because it is a consensus basis, I want to make sure that there is an environment where people feel they can have respectful debate.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Smith.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Councillor Moylan. So to that point, do you feel that, Mr. Mayor, and was it a place for good debate?
I just disregarded the comment. I think it's an egregious thing to say. I think the students have had an amazing time there. They have freedom of thought, freedom
point of order,
Sorry,
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
go ahead.
I take offence to the comment that it's an egregious thing to say. It is in the terms of reference.
Okay, thank you.
Section 8.8. It clearly says that it's a consensus basis.
I'll uphold that order on myself.
If I could
Yes, thank you,
finish,
Councillor.
that means that everybody thinks and agrees.
Thank you, Councillor. Saying the kids or the youth have an amazing spectrum of feedback, whether it's verbal, whether it's submissions, whether it's thought processes. I mean, I've been every step of the way with Councillor Champion, and the feedback is I love it. But further to that, I specifically asked all the principals or teachers or carers that come along, and I said, it's a big use of your time. What do you think? And they said it's absolutely terrific. We love having a platform for the students in leadership outside of our bubbles of the schools. So yeah, that was the reason I disregarded the comment, because I don't agree. I think that the kids have an amazing time there. Okay, Councillor Kent.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and did Councillor Champion, may I ask, did you have any...
Thank you. I'd like to speak to that as well. Thank you for asking. I think my understanding of what collaboration, of what consensus building means, an opportunity to share difference of opinion and to nut that through and talk about it. So built into that process, it's very important that difference of opinion is brought to the surface. That was fundamentally part of the process that we witnessed. And I think it brings those diverse perspectives together into an outcome that everyone can to support, to provide recommendations to council. So I think it provides a process through which we can actually draw outcomes rather than just advice.
Okay, Councillor Foley.
Thank you to Mayor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Champion for sharing their perspective on the Youth Council from their involvement. I'm pleased to support the recommendation to continue the Youth Council. It's great to see the positive feedback from the students, youth, their teachers and principals, which was supported by the survey data, indicating a high level of satisfaction. And so while 100% of the respondents were saying they would recommend being involved with the Youth Council, I think that's a great measure of success. I'm particularly interested in the metrics that show there's still room for improvement, which to me says that the program still has more to offer, and so continuing the program is a really great thing for our council. I really believe that the opinions and values of our teens and youth are incredibly important and should be heard and respected. They have so much to gain from the decisions that we make today, and it's important that we consider intergenerational equality in the decisions that we make in council. There are several items even on today's agenda which are pertinent to shaping the Wingecarribee that they will inherit in the not too distant future. I want to hear more of what the youth have to say, and I wholeheartedly support the Youth Council to continue when youth are included and listen to the whole community benefits.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith.
Just one other question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Civics within school is such a critical thing. Is there any strategy to actually embed the sort of learnings of the Youth Council or this insight into students within the school communities more broadly? You may not be able to answer, but...
Yeah, look, it's been an ongoing conversation about civics and education in general. I think the students are sort of getting an eye-opening to like the layers of government and how it all works. And I mean, I'd love to see it more broadly in schools, but then, yeah, that's a whole other kettle of fish. So it's certainly a periphery conversation, but there's nothing concrete in that space yet. Councillor Russell.
Within the terms of reference, is it possible for all councillors to be informed of when youth forums are taking place so that they can attend and listen to these voices?
I don't know if the debate circulated in the past about not having all the councillors in the room overwhelming. Not that it's overwhelming, but just all the elected officials overseeing, and that's why we just stuck with 2 people. Yeah.
Surely is through you.
I think 2 councillors is more than enough to oversee it or be there and participate in it. Because that's,
I'm talking about non-speaking roles.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any opinion on this, General Manager? No, it's up to the councillors.
I was just going to ask a question. If Councillor Champion would have any insight into that on the attendance and participation of councillors.
Thank you for the question. I think it was implied, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Russell, that just then that the Mayor and I both had speaking roles. Mine was much more one of attendance. And to be honest, I think if you weren't allowed to speak at all, that would be quite weird. I think that two attending members of council is plenty. It provided a little buffer for each of us to have, to be able to move around the room. Having more than one person, I think 2 is an appropriate number.
Then I'd like to propose an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
That the endorsement, sorry, number 3. After attachment 2, comma, with the change that the council representatives from the governing body be re-elected each year. That's it.
Okay, that was moved by myself, I believe. Yeah, I'll accept that. That's fine. Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Mullen. Councillor, have you already spoken? I believe you have.
No, that was a question.
That wasn't a question, Councillor. You've spoken.
No, I asked. We can go back to the minutes, but I asked
Sorry,
a
Councillor,
question.
you did comment on it. You've already spoken. That's going to be my ruling.
Point of
That's
point
my
of
ruling.
order that council meetings are inclusive. That I can vouch for the fact that Councillor Moylan definitely has not spoken on this matter.
I believe Councillor Rosen spoke to the matter. I'll just ask governance. Governance, is that correct?
I had it as speaking.
Yeah, okay. So that's my ruling. Okay, would else like to speak to this? Okay, I will now put this motion. All those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell. Is that unanimous? Councillor Farrell, are you? Councillor... Okay, Councillor Foley, Councillor Ken, Councillor Smith, Councillor Patrick. And all those against? Okay, we have one abstaining. Okay, that is carried. Item 8.2.5, Bundanoon Village Place Plan, Draft Public Exhibition. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Duffy, and a seconder. Councillor Russell, Councillor Duffy. Councillor Duffy.
I would just like to speak in favour of this, and I really like getting things in public exhibitions so that we can get feedback.
Anyone else like to speak to this? Okay, I will now put this motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 8.2.6, busking policy, and a mover, Councillor Duffy, a seconder, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. I would like to move the officer's recommendation just with a few points.
That's okay, we'll get them up and then we will...
Oh,
get
no,
another
sorry.
Seconder?
No, I wasn't moving it with a change. I was just moving the officer's recommendation. I just wanted to make a few
Okay,
points.
apologies. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So the adoption of this policy removes the requirement for performers to submit a Section 68 application through the planning portal, making it easier to activate our public spaces without unnecessary administrative barriers. It is also encouraging to see community feedback genuinely reflected in the final policy. The changes made to support young performers are a great example of feedback being listened to, understood and actioned during the public exhibition process. I'm particularly pleased to see the inclusion of measures that help reduce barriers for young people wanting to participate. Creating opportunities for young performers to share their talents and gain confidence is incredibly valuable for our community. I look forward to seeing our public spaces activated through the music and performance, and to seeing young people provided with the same opportunities that many of us benefited from growing up. And with that, I just have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager.
Yep.
Can I just ask why is there a limit in the policy for the 5-person limit busking?
General Manager.
Through Mr. Mayor to the Director. The manager, she's been sitting waiting patiently. Here's your moment.
Through you, General Manager, the reason we chose the 5 is we felt that was reasonable to support safe activation, ensure that there's pedestrian access still, while minimising any impacts. So if where there's too much noise or crowding, etc. Because we have to take into consideration that some may have instruments as well as themselves.
Okay, would else like to speak to this? Councillor Campion.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the General Manager. In the policy, I don't have the language exactly in front of me, apologies, but it says something about there being a waiver for 20 young people to busk without paying for a fee. Sorry, they still have to apply. And that would cover their, it's an insurance waiver. Do we have a sense of how many people under 18 would usually busk, and what would be the budget implications of making that insurance waiver policy universal for under 18s?
General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, to the Director.
Through you, General Manager. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. We're chartering new waters here, so it's an untested policy, but we're certainly up for reviewing as it gets legs, I suppose. So in answer to your question, we don't have an idea.
just a follow-up question on that through you, Mr. Mayor. You say that we're up for reviewing this as it gets legs. Is there, could you just refresh my memory, please, on what the review policy would be around, like, when we would look at this again?
General Manager.
Probably I can, Mr. Mayor, normally it's every 3 years unless something something changes or we see a significant issue or an opportunity.
Sorry, one more question in the same vein. Is it possible, General Manager, that a universal insurance waiver policy might actually reduce the burden of administration and be cheaper than only giving it to 20 students?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the Director.
Short answer is no. No, because the council places the insurance on their behalf. So they're still insured, it's just they're not paying for it.
Okay, who else like to speak to this? Councillor Molan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Procedural matter, so this isn't my speaking time. I move a motion of dissent on the Youth Council matter, Mr. Mayor. I did in fact ask a question about consensus. You answered it, and then you asked me another question, and I answered that.
Okay, so you're making a dissent against my ruling?
Yes.
Okay, that means we will put it to the vote. So if you're voting in favour of Councillor Moylan's position, then you are. Is that correct, Governance? So if you agree with Councillor, you're voting in the affirmative. If you, sorry? I need a seconder first. Councillor Russell. Okay, all those in favour of Councillor Moylan. Councillor Champion, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan. All those against. Councillor Duffy, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Ken, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Okay, we were at anyone wanting to speak to? Yes. Yep, Councillor Moylan.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And also, last time I spoke, I was interrupted and I didn't get to finish. So if I could please have my full 5 minutes this time.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So, councillors, please humour me. Picture a young person who's written their song and they grab their guitar and head down to Corbett Plaza, full of promise, and they want to practice their new song in front of the community. They're young and free and they think, if I can do this, I can do anything. And I might even make some money at the same time. No, you can't do that. It's too dangerous. You may have an accident. The people around you might have an accident. So we need to keep you safe. Come here, we'll have a little chat. There's a few things we need to do to keep you safe. Firstly, you need to fill out a whole bunch of forms. You need to get your own insurance. You need to pay council to sing your new song. You also need to bring your ID because we want to make sure that you are in fact the busker and not an imposter. And also, you're going to have to do a little audition to council. And Mr. Mayor, perhaps you could be the judge and we could be judges. And we are going to decide if your, and this is in the terms and conditions, if your performance is unique enough, of enough value, and if you present well, if you've got the right look. So, on a serious note, this leads me back to the topic of leadership. Why are we spending time on squashing buskers when it's not a problem? As the Director, Corporate Strategy just said, this is new territory. We haven't got a problem to fix. This is regulation for the sake of regulation. Secondly, regarding insurance, Mr. Andrew Forbes wrote in a submission, and I thank him very much for that, and he raises a very good point. Why can't everybody, young and old, be on council's insurance? Because currently, when the public walk down the street or go to a park or Corbett Plaza and they have an accident, council's insurance covers them. Well, why are we singling out buskers? Why are we singling out the young and free buskers? Thirdly, I want to reassure all the arts community that we are taking a fair and equitable approach. Currently, we have a lot of small art galleries who aren't that supported by council. We obviously have Nunnagalla Art Gallery, which is very much supported by council. And now we're looking at buskers, free and young, predominantly creatives, who need to pay council. This is not equitable and it's not fair, and I want to assure the community of artists that I want to take a fair approach to this. Now, lastly, I do not want to get in the way of stopping anyone from making income. Economic freedom and personal freedom go together. If you take one away, you take the other way. And I certainly don't want, in a cost of living crisis, in a fuel crisis, to be the one to get in the way of a young person who is just trying to express themselves and earn a living. Now, Dr. Raymond Curry has done some excellent analysis on this, and Dr. Curry is in the gallery today. Thank you very much. It is critical that we defer this policy and wait for the review of the terms and conditions, because both of them inform each other. If we don't get this right, then let's be clear, there is a penalty under the Local Government Act, and Dr. Raymond Curry alerted to me this to me, Section 626(3) of the Local Government Act. These buskers could be fined $2,200 if they breach this policy. Could. So I do not want us to roll out a policy that we admit isn't quite there yet, and it needs to have corrections to it, and it needs to be legally fit, and the terms and conditions need to be accurate. I want to review this policy. I want to defer it. I want to make sure that we are meeting all of our legislative requirements.
Thank you,
and
Councillor.
supporting buskers
That's your
too.
5 minutes. Governance, is a deferral a procedural motion, or is it, this is part of the motion? Okay. So you said you want to defer, Councillor? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll make an amendment.
Yep.
Okay, so in point number 1, delete adopt, please, and replace it with defer the adoption and then of the busking policy, etc. And then after report, replace the full stop with a comma, subject to semicolon, and then Roman numeral 1 underneath, please. Legal advice provided to councillors pertaining to the policy and terms and conditions. Semicolon, and semicolon, and then Roman numeral 2. The policy and terms and conditions are reviewed and completed, and semicolon, and then Roman numeral 3, please. Roman numeral 1 and 2 are brought back to councillors in a future meeting.
Okay, who moved this?
It was Councillor Duffy.
Councillor Duffy. Okay. Councillor Duffy, do you accept this? No? You'll need a seconder. Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I was saying, quite apart from all the points I made, there is a serious side to this. In the Local Government Act, Section 6263, there is a penalty for any buskers or emerging buskers if they make a breach. And there is a penalty of $2,200, I understand. So I want to make sure that we get this right. We have just heard, and I thank the Director for being very candid on this, that this is our first busker policy. We need to get it right, we need to get accurate, and we need to make sure that we have full legal advice, because at the end of the day, we as councillors are responsible for this, not staff. And we could be responsible for a penalty under the law to a busker. So we must get this right. And I, for one, want to be responsible and be able to look people in the eye in the community and tell them that I've done my level best to make sure that they have all their rights catered for.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to this. Councillor Ross.
Thank you to Councillor Moylan and to all councillors here. I hope that we can play the principle, not a personality, on all of these issues. Play the ball, not the person. These are serious issues that we have about how council is perceived in our community. We want to ensure that we have freedom of expression, freedom of right to play music, free to make a couple of coins, and that we protect those freedoms. We send people off to war to serve for us on the premise that we're a free country, that we're a free nation. Now, of course there are exceptions to this. You need seatbelt legislation, but we do not want to turn ourselves into a state where we are pandering to insurance companies, where we are putting in policies that encourage an overly litigious society. We need people to be able to take responsibility for themselves. So it is freedom with responsibility that we're talking about. We have a waiver for Brigadoon Festival that council puts in. We have people lifting giant stones. And guess what? In the pamphlet, it says you participate in this at your own risk. Why can't we participate in life at its own risk? I think we are in danger if we don't adopt Councillor Moylan's proposal and we go with what council has stipulated. We are in danger of turning into a society who hasn't checked itself at what it's turning itself into. You know, we want to encourage the free spirit in our children. We want to encourage the creative musician who might just need a bit of money to pay the rent. And hey, guess what? If they hurt themselves playing an instrument and they don't have a cap trying to get a couple of coins in front of them, if they hurt themselves, they can take responsibility for that. What is the difference between someone playing a musical instrument in the street with a cap in front of them and not? One, we might really support and nurture someone without throwing them through an online forum and a subjective test that might tell you to tidy up your hair, to dress neater, that we don't want your look around here. Those subjective tests are fraught with danger. Even the suggestion that we have them in our policy, that we are going to approve what you look like if you want to make music or be creative, that is on the nose of everything that we have fought for as a nation, I would argue. And why? Sounds like we're in client capture to an insurance company. That's what it sounds like. Instead of us supporting our community to be our community without wanting to take $1 or more for everything we do. So I support Councillor Moylan's suggestion because we want to be careful and responsible, not fearful as a governing body. And I keep finding we act out of fear instead of acting with care. If we defer this, we're going to act with care, we're going to get some legal advice on this, because I'm pretty sure if we can put in a waiver for Brigadoon, we can put in a waiver for buskers. The Local Government Act says we've got to have a busking policy. It does not stipulate anywhere that we have to charge a fee?
Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Question to the General Manager through you, Mr Mayor. This policy, or proposed policy, hasn't developed in a vacuum. We've been through preparing the draft and then getting public submission, and here we are considering the public submissions. Can I get some advice, please, as to whether this policy is consistent with other like policies and other LGAs?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Ms Jones?
Councillor Kemp, the simple answer is we are not the only council to have a busking policy, and there are parallels between most of them.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak. Councillor Champion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, a question for the General Manager. In slightly different wording, both councillors Russell and Moylan have asked the same question, which is why do we have public liability insurance requirements for buskers? Could you please outline why the draft policy requires specific public liability insurance for buskers?
General Manager.
Director Corporate.
Through you, thank you for the question. Essentially, this is performing an activity on public land, and as council and as public authorities and landowners, we have a legal obligation to make sure that we're taking reasonable steps to manage risk. That's consistent with the risk policy and the risk appetite statement that council have adopted, both of which emphasise a low appetite for unmanaged safety risks and liability and financial risks. So insurance isn't also around, what am I trying to say? It's a risk management process, not an administrative one. And I guess if we can consider it through that lens, it may help councillors inform their decision.
Okay. Would else like to speak to this amendment? Councillor Champion.
Thank you. Quick follow-up question through you, Mr Mayor. Could you be slightly more specific about why we need that kind of liability insurance for buskers and they wouldn't be covered by the existing public liability insurance that covers everybody?
General Manager.
Ms Jones.
So just so I'm clear, the question is, why doesn't council's general public liability insurance cover buskers? Yes. Yeah. In the same way that council's general public liability insurance doesn't cover stall holders, for example. So those people are individual and they are taking the risk. Otherwise, council is accepting the risk on their behalf. So I guess that's the decision for the council.
Okay, Councillor Mullin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to the General Manager, could we please be provided with the legal advice I'm assuming has been provided for this policy?
General Manager.
Through Mr Mayor, Ms Jones, you might want to explain how the policy was formulated.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'll just speak to a misunderstanding. I'm simply asking for the legal advice, just a yes or no, on this policy and the terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There was no misunderstanding. What I was hoping Ms Jones could actually explain to the councillor is the process we went through, and not for every occasion do you need legal advice. But Ms Jones, you may or may not wish to answer.
Thank you, General Manager, for the clarification. There was no legal advice obtained to formulate the busking policy, and confirming what the General Manager said, not every policy that we provide would require such advice. The process in which we prepared was to benchmark against other councils' policies, to consult with our insurer, and that is why the policy is before you as it is.
Okay, and I'd like to speak this moment.
I have a question through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. From what the Director of Corporate Strategy and Resourcing referenced before, and my discussions with staff yesterday, my understanding is that we don't need to have insurance for people, but we are choosing to because we are risk averse. Is that correct?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think the Director answered that.
Anyone else like to speak? Okay, I will now put this. Councillor Moylan, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on insurance, through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, how does insurance play out with workers mowing on council land or protesters on council land in council parks? How does that work?
General Manager.
Through Ms Mayor, slightly off topic, but what I'll do is actually arrange for a learning and development session for councillors so they understand the different requirements that apply to activities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there was no other speakers. I'll now put this amendment. All those in favour? Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan. All those against? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Now we're back at the original motion. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Question to yourself. Are you comfortable adopting this policy and the terms and conditions, even though the terms and conditions will be reviewed,
Yes.
without legal advice, when we know in the Local Government Act
Councillor.
that there is a penalty for
Councillor.
buskers?
One, please put your questions succinctly, and two, you'll see how I vote when I vote. Would else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Champion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Firstly, I want to acknowledge that the policy before us is already moving in a positive direction, and the changes that have been made since it went on submission, I strongly support. There's been a lot of work done there. However, there's an amendment that I will propose that is about taking that supportive approach one step further. I think there is a strong values-based case for making busking permits genuinely accessible and low barrier, particularly for young people, emerging musicians and local creatives. Buskers contribute enormously to the character and atmosphere of our towns, and I'm sure that the staff that have been involved in this and the councillors have every intention of sort of supporting the activation of our towns, and that's where some of this policy comes from. But importantly, many of the people who busk are not high-income earners. Across creative industries, independent musicians and artists earn very modest incomes for their work. According to the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, independent and gigging musicians on average earn less than $6,000 a year from their work. Broader studies across New South Wales suggest that even if you include non-creative income, those musicians have a total average salary of $54,000. So I think there's a broader principle here about recognising the value creatives contribute to our community life and ensuring that council's approach is one of encouragement rather than unnecessary barrier. So that's particularly true for younger performers. I'm going to skip ahead of some of my notes here. No, I'm speaking to the motion, and then I'll propose an amendment. No, that's okay. Sorry, I'm looking at what's on the screen. Yeah, no, you're fine. For those reasons, I will propose an amendment that I'm just outlining it first, that proposes that council affirm its commitment to supporting street creativity and local musicians, provide busking permits free of charge, including covering the public liability insurance requirements for approved activities, and simplify the assessment criteria so the process remains clear, accessible and focused on safety and amenity. I believe that aligns strongly with council's own strategic direction as outlined in council's Creative Highlands 2025 to 29 strategy. In that spirit, I move an amendment, please. I've sent that through to governance. Dr. Lugard, I believe you've got it there, yep. Thank you. So those 3 points that I outlined to affirm council's commitment to supporting street creativity, local musicians, performers and vibrant public spaces across the Shire, provide busking permits free of charge with council covering all permit administration costs and public liability insurance requirements associated with approved busking activities, and simplify permit assessment criteria to ensure the process is accessible, transparent and focused on public safety and reasonable amenity impacts rather than subjective artistic judgment.
Okay, so we'll need the mover to second this, accept this. I believe that was Councillor Duffy, is my right? Yep. Councillor Duffy, do you accept this amendment? Okay, I need a seconder. Councillor Russell, Councillor Champion, go ahead.
Look, I've given my key reasons for wanting to make these changes. I think it's important that we find a universally accessible approach for buskers. I think that it is consistent with our adopted strategies. I know that that is the intention that we're moving in, but I do think that if we are seeking fees from people, even to cover administrative costs and liability costs that we are managing ourselves, then we are seeking them from the wrong people if we're seeking them from buskers. I think this is something that council can absorb for very good reasons. I think that the contribution that buskers make to our community is much greater than the cost of the public liability insurance that we'd be providing them with.
Okay, Councillor Smith.
I have a question. I assume this would have financial implications. Do we need to identify a budget?
I don't believe we do, under the new Code of Meeting Practice, identify a budget. Generally, if no budget can be identified, a report has to be brought back by the General Manager as to the cost. In saying that, I don't think we have any idea of how many people would take it up. So from a financial perspective, it'd just have to, I mean, the General Manager can make comment, but it'd have to just be see what comes, and the cost is the cost. I mean, it's not entirely comfortable, but I don't think we have no historic data to estimate how many people will do it. Whether it's $100 or $20,000, I don't think we can say. But do you have anything further to add to that, General Manager?
What you're saying is correct, Mr. Mayor, because we haven't had the system in place to know the demand, so it's a bit of a circular position we're in. At the end of the day, it's a matter for council at a very practical level. What it would mean, because it's not budgeted, what it would mean is, and if council wants to go support the amendment, we'd implement it, we'd have to make an adjustment through the budget process. So what that means is, as part of the quarterly budget process, we'd then identify the costs we've incurred, and it would have to then come from somewhere, like we do each quarter when we have budget adjustments. That's a very practical answer.
Councillor
Moyle. Question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager. If this is all new, isn't it the case that there would be no delta in the budget because we haven't had these permits before?
General Manager.
Yes, Ms Jones.
The fact remains, Councillor Moylan, that council would still need to place insurance on behalf of the performers, whether it's 1 or 50. So there is a cost. So the delta is the cost of the insurance.
Okay. Okay, so would anyone else like to speak to this amendment? Okay, we'll now put this amendment. All those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Foley. All those against? Councillor Farrell, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. That is successful. That is now the motion. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Duffy.
I'm so sorry. I would just like to move an amendment to keep that, but then to add another point that we keep it free for 12 months and then review after that. So keep that, but then review in 12 months.
Apologies, let me just back up a second. Yes, so that is the motion. So if Councillor Champion has now amended it, you can actually accept your own amendment as the motion.
I accept.
Okay, now that is the motion. Would anybody like to speak to that? Councillor Russell?
I'd like to propose an amendment to this. Number 4, or number, is it number, where are we? Yeah. And then E. Include the right for a busker to waive their eligibility for a permit and busk at their own responsibility.
Governance, is that a direct negative? Am I? Waive the right to a basket eligibility. Not illegal. It's direct negative.
It could be similar
So I
to
can't-
the provisions for Brigadoon, for activities at Brigadoon.
So to governance, we can't accept this. Okay, we can't accept this. So we'll just go back, and would anyone else like to speak to
Well, sorry, what was the reasoning that it cannot be?
the General Manager?
Dr Lydiard, can you explain to councillor the motion or the amendment that's in front of council, the intent, and then councillor Russell's intent?
It conflicts with the rest of the motion. It doesn't work.
So it can't be a direct negative. So it can't be a direct negative of the motion.
How is it a direct negative?
Well, it conflicts with the entire motion and policy.
But we're providing busking permits
So
free of
basically, you're
charge.
saying we should have no policy and then everyone do what they want.
No, because we're actually enabling people to have public liability insurance if they want it. But we're also saying, look, we've got these, you can apply for a permit, we'll give you free insurance if you want that. There's a process you have to go through, which I think is lovely that we're doing
So
that.
you're saying if you want to disregard the policy, feel free to disregard the policy,
Well, if you want to busk, you can still busk and,
but disregard the policy. Is that what you're asking?
no, we're providing people with a choice.
To either adhere to the policy or not adhere to the
No,
policy?
we're providing people with a choice because obviously applying for insurance involves getting a permit, yes? But the permit isn't the entire policy. It's a busking policy. So a permit is one aspect of the policy. So we are providing people with a choice. You can get a permit and that will make you eligible for free insurance, or our busking policy is that you can also busk and take responsibility for yourself. It's a choice. It's not a direct negative at all.
thank
It's
you,
not
Councillor.
saying that we take out
Thank
that.
you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Danielle, do you have any further comments, or maybe I'll put it to the council? You stand by what you said, that it shouldn't be allowed? Okay, I'm gonna rule to not have it, so we're gonna remove it.
I move a motion of dissent, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. On that,
Yes.
okay. So all those in favour of supporting the motion of dissent? Sorry, I got a seconder? Councillor Russell. All those in favour? It was the
Yes,
dissent
I
on
need-
the
but I
ruling
need
I
to
just
speak.
made. It was a dissent on the ruling I just made.
Yes, but I need to speak to my own motion of dissent.
Go ahead, councillor.
So the reason I disagree with the ruling, Mr Mayor, is point E is not mutually exclusive with the points above it. Point E is an adjunct. It says quite clearly, include. So you don't, it's not mutually exclusive.
Okay, thank you, councillor.
So I dispute the whole logic here.
Okay.
And it's quite common in insurance policies.
Okay, thank you, councillor. And my rebuttal to that will be that's my ruling. I've confirmed with governance on that.
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, councillor, we've got to hear this dissent out before there's any more conversation. So with that, I'll now put this dissent. All those in favour of the dissent? Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan. All those against? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Okay, we are back at the motion. Would else like to speak to this?
I have a motion of dissent, Mayor.
What is your dissent?
My dissent is that, as the General Manager has said, it is up to the council, the entire governing body, to decide whether this matter
Councillor, it's
whether
also-
people are going to be provided with a choice. And
Councillor.
you.
The chairperson has precedence, and when the chair is speaking, you're to stop speaking. I've reminded you that several times in other meetings. It is also up to me to manage the meeting, and that is my ruling, and that is the function of the dissent. If the council has agreed that with the dissent, then we would have heard it. Your council cohort did not agree with that dissent, therefore we are not hearing it. So that is why we didn't hear it. The council cohort backed that decision. So we're going to move on. Would else like to speak to this? Okay, Councillor Duff, would you like a right of reply?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So I would just like to say that Council recognises busking as an important entry point into the creative industries, providing opportunities for performers to develop skills, confidence and public performance experience that may lead to broader opportunities in festivals, events and professional street performance. Supporting busking helps nurture grassroots creativity and encourages artistic participation, allowing local performers to grow, experiment and contribute to the cultural identity and vibrancy of the community. So with that, I think we need to put this one to the vote. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith. All those against? Councillor Moylan, Councillor Fitzpatrick. That is carried. Item 8.2.7, Disability Inclusion Action Plan for adoption. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Duffy, you're seconding Councillor Foley. Councillor Duffy.
I think that this is really good work. And being a mum of a child that has a disability, I do fully support this. Thank you.
Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Russell.
I would like to acknowledge that our community living in the Southern Highlands with a disability have not been supported historically with the infrastructure that they need to move about our shire in an easy manner. And we've listened to the voices, and I know this council is listening, and I would like to congratulate staff on what they've done with this plan. And this needs to be a priority because these are the people who, despite the fact that it is often more challenging for them to have a voice, to have a seat at the table, to participate, show up and make effort with submissions more often than not because their needs are currently not being met. If we have money in our budget for funding things we don't need, dare I say, regional art galleries, and if we've got money in our budget for funding rewilding schemes of a swimming pool, then we can prioritise this as an absolute necessity and getting the infrastructure, not the community development. Our community have asked us time and time again, please focus on infrastructure. That's our core responsibility to meet the needs of our entire community can feel like they are a part of the Windja Caribbee and live a safe, healthy and prosperous lifestyle. And that's down to infrastructure as our core council responsibility. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would else like to speak to this? Okay. Right of reply for Councillor Duffy. I'll now put this motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Item 8.2.8, Windja Caribbee Libraries Plan. Can I have a mover? Councillor Champion. A seconder? Councillor Smith. Councillor Champion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There haven't been many formal submissions on this strategy while it's been on exhibition, but I assume that's because all the people who are deeply invested in our libraries are busy reading. While it's been on exhibition, I have had quite a lot of conversations with people about the strategy with different members of the community, and I've asked what they think of this proposed new direction. And overwhelmingly, the response has been that the innovations sound positive, and more importantly, that people deeply value our libraries. Parents with small kids, elderly residents, people doing research, students, people just looking for somewhere quiet, people accessing collections, people using like the mobile library in the villages, and people who are just looking for the quiet joy of books. And for our library staff's wonderful and growing programming. So I'm really excited about the execution of this strategy, and I'm glad to vote in favour of its adoption today.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and I'm also thrilled by this strategy. It's a creative and comprehensive plan, and I'd like to really thank the manager of community life and libraries and her team for really taking a contemporary and creative approach to this. Libraries are now dynamic third spaces for our community. They're not just about books. As a parent of a HSC student, it gives me great joy to see that libraries have really come back for a place for students to hang out. They're also a place for collaboration and connection, literacy, learning, and they really bring our community together, both young and old. And so I really think this is a way of building connection. I think it's a great thing. And I really love the creative approach that's been taken about things like looking at collaboration with groups such as writers' festivals, that type of thing. So well done to the team, and I'm really happy to support this.
Councillor Foley.
I'll agree with what's already been said. Libraries are incredibly important, and I believe they're one of the most valuable services that councils provide. Making books and information available to all for free, they actively build community connections. They open year-round in all weather, available to anybody, and have little, if any, barriers to accessibility. To reiterate some of the points that have already been made, libraries are not just about books. They are essential in strengthening our communities. And they go about quietly building social cohesion, the kind that creates strong communities and that takes years to develop. We're seeing this recognised more broadly. For example, the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority is now assessing social infrastructure across the state, including libraries, because they play such a strong role in connecting people, that when things like natural disasters occur, such as bushfires, communities are not starting from scratch. People are already connected and able to support each other. So with the plan that we have, noting that majority of the actions in the plan are already funded, I commend the creativity and adaptability of the staff in preparing a plan that is impactful yet realistic. When we talk about the impact of the services we're providing for our communities, libraries are one of the best and most accessible examples of where our rates are being spent well and really delivering for the community.
Okay, anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Kent.
I love this motion and I love books.
Would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Duffy.
I would just like to speak in favour of this motion. I wasn't going to, but just noting on what Councillor Champion said, if people are going for a quiet place, don't go during story time when my kids are there, because it's not quiet, but I love the libraries and I use them, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, right of reply to Councillor Champion, sorry. Okay, I'll now put this motion. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously. Item 9.1, Councillor Moylan, would you like to move your amendment, your motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
And I'd get a seconder, please. Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan.
Let's be clear. What we are looking at is the most broad sweeping rate hikes on residents that this Shire has ever seen. We're looking at a massive 34% increase in rates over the next 3 years, a massive 78% increase in water, a massive 26% increase in sewer, an up to 100% massive increase in some fees and charges for council services, a massive loan of $30+ million and a massive land sale of $10+ million. It is clear what is on the table and has been proposed is to hit residents at every possible opportunity. Now, I'm a reasonable person, a logical person, and I understand and I accept that if we want to fix our roads, that is going to take a lot of money. If we want to do the upgrades to our sewer and water, that's also going to take a lot of money. And if we want to keep the services that we currently have at the levels, and if we want to keep that going, we are going to be facing an $8 million deficit year upon year upon year. And someone needs to pay for that $8 million deficit, and that's you, the resident. Well, that's the bit I do not accept. I do not accept the approach we are taking. We are jumping straight to the last resort, which is raising rates, raising every fee and charge, up to 100% for some of them. This is not the approach that we should be taking. We need to first do step one, which is cut the waste and find efficiencies and do a complete review of that before we even consider asking residents to pay more and more and more for less. So what I am proposing is that we re-engage the financial advisor, the expert, to do a full service review, look at all of our services, and with community input, we decide what's in and what's out. And what's in, we look thoroughly at how we can run those services more efficiently. This is the only logical and fair way to review our finances. Now, secondly, I'm also proposing that the financial expert come back to us with alternatives, all the alternatives possible for us to avoid these rate hikes. I'm also asking for us as a council to be open and listen to the many residents that we have, and we are very lucky in this shire. We have many residents who have got sophisticated experience in exactly this problem we are trying to fix. So I ask you councillors to be open to them. We didn't have a public forum. Let's listen to these residents. They might have the alternative that we need. Thirdly, I'm asking for all of this information to come back in a public forum. We need to listen to residents and listen to the financial advisor. Now, to the residents, I have listened to you in the public forum that Councillor Russell and I went to, that Dr. Khoury organised, and I thank him again. I have listened to you in pubs, I've listened to you in cafes, on the street, I've read your Facebook posts, I've read all the social media, I've read your emails, I've had phone calls, and I've read your text messages. And I know you are very angry at this approach. Very angry at the approach we are taking, which is skipping over step one and going straight to the last resort, which is taking your money and giving it to council when I don't think we have to. And I want to let you know that I will not give up on this issue, because I want residents' money to stay in residents' pockets and pay for residents' household debts instead of residents' money going to council to pay for council's debt. I will not give up on this.
Thank you. Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Russell.
I have questions, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. General Manager, I've asked this question a number of times and I haven't gotten a straight answer, and I would really like a straight answer. When was the last time that we did a structured review of what will be best value for money in service delivery for our residents and ratepayers? When did that happen?
General Manager.
Mr Mayor, I have answered Councillor Russell, and apologies if she doesn't feel that that has been the case.
Okay.
So
Councillor
through,
Coates.
To General Manager, through you, Mayor, please. Part 3 of the motion talks about consultation, really. Could the General Manager please outline the planned consultation post, assuming that there's a decision made in June, the planned consultation, the planned consultation post-June? Thanks.
General Manager. What's your misunderstanding, Councillor?
So Councillor Kent just referred to consultation in point 3 as if it is the IPART consultation program. My public forum is separate to that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. I believe he was talking about consultation between council and the public, not IPART. Councillor, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Ms Jones.
Councillor Moylan, just for clarification, you're asking about. Oh, sorry. Why am I looking at you, Councillor Moylan? Sorry, beg your pardon, Councillor Kent. You're asking about the consultation process that will be undertaken. Again, as we've explained a couple of times now, there is a planned schedule of community engagement which involves a series of things, including face-to-face engagement that will take place between July and August once the IPNR documents are adopted. And that consultation will focus primarily on ensuring the community are aware of the two scenarios in the long-term financial plan. And essentially what that is around understanding what the impact on residents and ratepayers in the community at large, whether with a special rate variation, but also and equally importantly without. So so it's talking about raising awareness of both of those scenarios.
Mr Mayor, I'll speak to a misunderstanding and misrepresentation.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So with greatest of respect, the Director just referred to the IPART consultation in answer to Councillor Kent's question. The public forum my motion is referring to has got nothing to do with IPART. It has got to do with bringing back the reports in point 1 and point 2. So any discussion about an IPART consultation bears no relevance to what my motion says.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kent?
Thank you for the answers around the consultation. Councillors, this is a flawed motion. Next month, we're going to present it with a series of financial documents that, if approved by Council, be operable from the 1st of July this year, i.e. 6 weeks' time. These documents will be post the recently concluded 28-day public exhibition period. At the end of the day, if councillors don't like what has come out of a more than 12-month process in terms of looking at financial sustainability, don't vote for the material or vote or propose amendments or whatever it is you want to do. But to come here on the 20th of May and propose this motion shows a complete lack of understanding of good financial governance. On the 1st of July, we need to have operation plans, long-term financial plans in place so the Shire can continue supply. And to pretend anything else is ludicrous.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Actually, it's a question of, it's a point of order. Unfavourable comments to myself. I take offence to Councillor Kent's assertion that I don't understand financial governance. Also the suggestion that timeframes are more important than taking money from residents' pockets.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kent?
I made no comment about Councillor Moyle or any other councillor. I made comment on the motion itself.
Councillor Russell?
I would like to speak now to
Go ahead.
this. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Mayor and the General Manager for giving me so much material for the IPART submission over the past few months, actually, since the November meeting last year. I've repeatedly asked the General Manager, when are we going to be doing that assessment of what's best value for money? And all I've had is obfuscation and denial and telling me that she answered the question when she hasn't, again and again and again. And all I need to do this time is point anyone to the councillor questionnaire that's on our website where I have asked, could you identify for me what the triggers are for when we reassess? And I still don't have an answer. We've got 3 assessments apparently in local government. It's value for rates, service review and business case. Now, we've done business cases for those things that we wanted to outsource, but we got all sorts of contractors in November, large panels, 28
Councillor,
on
are
a
you
tender
speaking
panel.
to this amendment?
Yes, I am. I am speaking on the fact that we need to be doing a service review that is assessing what's going to be the best value in service delivery, because we haven't done it. I haven't been able to get an answer from the General Manager that has told me that we have done that since we adopted our risk management policy in June last year, saying that we have no appetite for a special rate variation unless we have exhausted all possible avenues, all possible alternatives. And we haven't done that yet, because if we had, I would have received the proof of it. I would have received the proof when I asked about it in December. Maybe I would have received the proof of it when I asked about it in February. And maybe we'd be receiving the proof of it when I just asked right now. But we haven't. And in the meantime, we have had a fuel crisis. Now, if we have 90% of the contractors that we put on tender panels that are coming from outside this shire, and we have had a fuel crisis in the middle of that with budget adjustments accordingly, now why haven't we re-evaluated what's the best value for rates in service delivery when we're contemplating an SRV, I ask you? And Mr Mayor, when was the last time you scrubbed up on your role under the Local Government Act? Because I'll remind you, shall I?
Councillor, I'm going to call you to order. You are way off topic for starters, talking about contractors and you have a motion before you that's asking for a service review, and you have the opportunity to vote for that now.
And I'm
you've
saying...
asked me, Councillor, you've asked me directly a question and I'm going to answer it. So I'm going to ask you to wait, please. My opinion of the service reviews that you continue to ask for systematically happen over our term. Now, right here in the comment response, we have done major reviews of not only the sustainability report of itself, assessment report, aquatics facilities, out of school hours care, visitor services, Barrel Memorial Hall, Tulip Time Street review, council participated development assessment expert plan review. These are just a few items that we systematically go through and do service reviews on. Every year we do service reviews and get better and better and better. So that happens systematically is what I'm saying to you. Coming in and doing it all in a 3-month period is the part that's not tenable. But we will continue to do it over the term and have done even pre us under administration, I believe.
Well, through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, if we're not using business cases to do that in terms of deciding what's the best model of service delivery when we've had a fuel crisis... I was in the middle of my speech, and I'll continue my speech, and then I'll ask you some more questions, because I still have some time to speak.
I'm going to remind you of item 6.9, when the chairperson speaks, any councillor then speaking or speaking must seek to speak. So you spoke, and then you finished speaking, and then it went into a question.
I didn't finish speaking in a question to you. You just interrupted me.
Councillor, you made a pretty big accusation that I'm not undertaking my act on the roll. So that that's why you can. Councillor, I'm going to give you one more chance. We're going to move on. We're going to get you can finish your speaking. How long has this councillor got left? You've got 2 minutes left. Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm talking about best value for money in model of service delivery. Now, a service review should trigger the fact that we've had a fuel crisis, that possibly employing contractors, 90% of which are out of area, we need to be doing business cases. But the General Manager has said that there have been no business cases done across all service areas, only on some. Now, in relation to a service review, which is what this is about, that should identify the fact that we'd have a fuel crisis. We've had quarterly budget adjustments because of the fuel crisis. We don't know when the war's going to finish. You, Mr Mayor, and the General Manager attended the excellent presentation by Bendigo Bank's financial advisor, which said that there's so much uncertainty, things can get very messy, and it all depends on when a war ends, that nobody knows when it's going to end. So I would have thought that sensibly, Mr Mayor, and why I was asking you is because it's your role to check that the General Manager is keeping in line with our risk management policy, which clearly articulates that we are going to exhaust all avenues before contemplating a special rate variation. But if there have been no business cases, then that hasn't happened. Now, a service review, seeing as management need encouragement, it appears, will flush that out. And in the meantime, if we don't do it, then it's just more material for my IPART submission, which is at the moment pretty meaty, because we have all of this.
Thank you, Councillor. That is your time. Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Foley.
I'd like to speak against this motion, particularly in point 1 where it refers to full services review. I can see, quoted in the business case, that in developing our draft 2026-2027 budget, Council undertook a detailed organisational and service delivery review to identify sustainable efficiency gains while seeking to maintain core community services. So Council has been looking at making savings. That's been done all along, and as my colleague Mayor Fitzpatrick has just said, that is going to be something that we continue to do over the course of our term. However, the business case also makes it clear that these reductions are not impact-free. So we've examined that in the budget, and that's what the long-term financial plan does reflect.
Thank you, Councillor Kent.
Can we please put this?
I believe we can. There's been 2 for and 2 against. Okay, I'll put the motion to put this.
Sorry, point of order. It is inclusive, which is part of it. Councillor Champion would really like to speak.
I'm sorry,
So,
I have to adhere.
It's a procedural motion?
It's a procedural motion, so we're first voting to put the motion, so we're not voting to put it. We're not voting on it, we're just voting to put it. So I need a seconder. Councillor Smith, all those in favour of putting the motion? Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor King, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick, all those against? Councillor Champion, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan. It will now be put. So I'll just clear it up.
Mr Mayor, I need my right of reply.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's correct. Council does a right reply, then we Yep, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to those councillors and yourself, Mr Mayor, for engaging in the debate. I will respond to some of the items raised in the debate. Firstly, Councillor Foley, thank you for your contribution. What I would say to your point is, though we have done the 26-27 budget, that's coming before us in June, any time is a good time for additional savings. Secondly, to your point about the documentation, I take the view that we put people and residents' money before documentation. Councillor Kent, thank you for your contribution. You were suggesting that the time is not good to do a service review and to bring this notice of motion. I would suggest to you that time frame is not as important as an SRV being imposed on our residents. And I would ask you to consider the pensioners who, if this goes through, will be impacted the most, and also the business community. And we had the Southern Highlands Business Chamber present today. They represent, there's over 6,000 small businesses in this shire, and they are going to be the ones most hit in terms of a percentage increase in rates. So I ask you to reflect on that before making comments about documentation and timeframes. Mr Mayor, to your point, thank you again for contributing to the debate. Your point that Council is already doing this and that we have already achieved some efficiencies. What I would say to that is, as the financial advisor said, it should have been done much earlier. A full review and looking at all the efficiencies should have been done much earlier. And he said, of course, it should have been done earlier. And what I would also say to that point is, as with all the other businesses that we've heard tonight, it is common practice to do a full review, even if it takes 3 months, even if it is a lot of time for staff. This is much more important than just jumping to the conclusion of raising their rates. We need to do a discrete body of work here. and make sure we we don't leave any stone unturned. Now, with the consultation period, listening to residents, when you're talking about taking money from them, taking it from their households, where they would prefer to pay off their household debt, and asked for it to go to paying off council's deficit, they want to talk about it right now, loud and clear. They don't want to wait for IPART consultation program. They are telling us right now very loudly that they are not happy with this, and they are not happy with this approach, and we need to listen. Now, efficiencies alone, I have seen that in the staff response, and thank you to staff for putting this together. Efficiencies alone, it has been suggested that that won't solve this problem. Well, unless we quantify the efficiencies, how can we rule that out as an approach? Because I can tell you now that taking money from residents and then running out of that money as well, that's not a good approach either. Now, we need to have a fundamental change, I believe, in how we view finances in this organisation. We need Councillor Russell's Finance Committee. We need fresh ideas and different perspectives. We need business cases which show both sides of the ledger, not just the one we prefer. We need to link the General Manager's salary to the deficit. And we need community input in this. We are here to represent the community, and we are spending their money. They need to have input into this. And the Minister has identified a lot of inefficiencies in our DA team and how we do DAs. And once we implement that, we are going to soar. That's the sort of review I want for our finances, looking at every process, every review, and every service. Until we look at the alternatives, we cannot jump to a special rate variation.
Thank you, Councillor.
Point of order. Point of order, Mayor. Inclusive, all councillors should receive the same information. Could we all get access to...
Councillor.
This is...
Councillor, let me put it to the vote, and then we can discuss it on the other side. We can't interrupt the putting of a vote. Okay, all those in favour of this motion? Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, all those against? Councillor Chairman, Councillor Duffy, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith. That is lost. Item...
Point of order. Inclusive, all councillors should have the same access to information. Could we all get the scribble notes that the Director of Corporate Strategy and Resourcing has been scribbling to you during the meeting, and perhaps the ones that the General Manager?
Councillor, I have a lot of procedural things to do up here, and all of our notes are procedural.
Well, thank you. I'd love to see them,
No,
so we could all be
Councillor,
upskilled.
we are moving on. It's ridiculous. Item 9.2, resolution. Would you like to move your motion, Councillor?
Thank you, and I will move it with a change.
Go ahead.
So I will change the engagement is over 250,000 K rather than the...
Good. Happy to move that?
Yep.
Okay. The manager. Okay. And a second for this, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Russell, you go ahead.
Thank you. And before I start speaking, I am just forwarding to councillors, if I haven't already, the mayoral minute, to Danielle Ledgard, the mayoral minute, the original mayoral minute that's being amended for tabling. And if I could just check with the manager if she got my earlier tabled document on case law there that I tabled, so if both of those documents could be tabled at the meeting. I will, if I could get that confirmation before I start speaking.
Yes, I've just received them. Thank you. Councillor, can I just confirm, you're moving with a change? The original motion from the mayoral minute was at 250K. It's the same.
Yep, so I've brought it back into line with the original mayoral minute. That's right. So it reflects your original notice of motion, Mayor, and just removes the exemption for technical and construction briefs. In introducing this, I will quote from the Mayor's own words in his mayoral minute in November 2024 that clearly articulates the intention of this policy on consultants. Councillors have a clear role in making strategic and policy decisions. One way that this can occur is through the provision of briefs for the engagement of consultants for projects that have significant and long-term strategic impacts for our community. Council engages consultants to undertake work on its behalf from time to time for work where there is a need to engage expertise not found in council, e.g. economists, and or because of grant opportunities and or where additional resources are required. Whilst during the period of administration, briefs for this type of work have been put into the business paper, I would like to formalise this for both the council and the community. The provision of briefs provides the opportunity for the community and councillors to understand and have input into the scope of the brief prior to the commencement of a project. This also supports our commitment to transparency and accountability, as the public can see that decisions are based on thorough professional assessments rather than assumptions and limited information. To ensure that our focus stays at the strategic and policy level, I propose that briefs for the engagement of professional services are presented to Council for endorsement where the engagement is estimated to be over $250,000, or impact is long-term, or impact on more than 10,000 people and or Shire-wide. By establishing measures that increase our transparency and accountability, we can demonstrate to ratepayers and residents that we have checks and balances in place for how public money is spent. This builds community confidence and trust in council. This is the intention of that original policy on consultants from our mayor.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak to this? Councillor Kent. Sorry, start again, Councillor Kent.
Thank you. Question to the gentleman.
Oh, my apologies. That's me.
Yeah, you know where I'm going. So in regard to point 2, we currently have technical construction projects excluded from the provisions in 1 above. Can I get some comment, please, on how many of these kind of briefs would come to council, and what value a council like myself, who's not an engineer, not a builder, could add to construction projects, for example?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the intent, if we go back to councillors' roles, and councillor roles are around strategic and policy. We have technical experts in terms of engineers, in terms of hydrologists, whatever. And with respect, I don't know that falls within the remit of strategic and policy. If it was a policy on stormwater management, if it was a strategy on, I don't know, but in terms of technical, there was a reason why technical and construction were taken out, because they are technical and rely on technical expertise. I couldn't tell you, you know, what strength a particular building material needs to be. Like that's, and I wouldn't expect a councillor in their role to do that either.
Councillor Kent.
Thank you for that answer. That accords with what I thought. I don't want to get myself in the middle of bending moments and 4B2s. I'm against this motion.
Okay, Councillor Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question through you to the General Manager, please. I just need a little clarity on what exactly we're talking about here. So the operative words seem to be technical and construction. Most people understand the meaning of construction. Could you please define what technical means for me?
General Manager.
With respect, it's a councillor's notice of motion. Councillor.
Sorry, my apologies if I can clarify. My understanding was that we had adopted that in the previous mayoral minute. So as an adopted position of council, could you explain how you've interpreted that since then?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going back to the mayoral minute, that what was intended, I believe at the time, was technical being whether a specialist technical knowledge that would go into specifying the consultancy. I know it would largely fall within Mr. McAllister's area. There may be some areas that may fall into Mr. McCabe's, but largely I would see technical in Mr. McAllister's, unless it's something highly specialised. That's not a very clear answer, but I guess it's technical in Mr. McAllister. Do you want to help me out here?
Through you, General Manager. Maybe best to actually give you a practical example. So a technical project that we have got underway at the moment is a corridor assessment of Bondiman Caves Road. That effectively involves a number of experts and specialist skills, everything from LIDAR to civil engineers to hydrologists to geologists, who are effectively undertaking a study of the road to understand particular or critical failure points along the road, and then what risk that will actually pose and what construction methodologies or actions that we may need to take to actually build some resilience into the road.
So is it my understanding, maybe to Governor, like this resolution would mean that every single, like if you had any, or if you use Bondiman Caves, if it had 15 consultants, because it's such the magnitude of it, this resolution would mean we'd have to bring back the geotech report, the engineer report, the water report, because it's technical in nature and the value is over X. Is that what ultimately you would have to do if we resolved in the affirmative?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's, as I understand it, what's before me is that it's the brief, so it's not the outcome or any, it's the scope.
Yeah, but the scope...
And the scope has to be technical, based on technical expertise.
So we'd be looking at essentially a technical item to inform a road. That's if it's over the value of 250. Yeah, look, and I understand what then. Yeah, that's exactly why we're in strategic. Councillor Champion.
Thank you for elucidating this with me. Work with me just a little bit longer on this through you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding, if we were to say, do something, just to use construction as an example, if we were to be constructing a new building, presumably that would come to council as a strategic decision. So both technical and construction decisions are made within council, but at the strategic level. Can we exclude things categorically like this, given that it's more a matter of scale than it is a matter of character?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to think of an example that I could give, and I think that there's a level of trust. The council have set, for your term, you've set your CSP, you've set your delivery program, you've told me what you want to achieve in your 4-year term collectively, and that's what we're delivering. So if I picked, say, the library, if hypothetically, we're not, but hypothetically, if we were going to build a new library, we would come to the council. We'd say, okay, you've got this strategy, you've got some broad outcomes. What else would you like to explore in that new library? And you might say, we'd like creative suites. We want to make sure we've got a mother's room, or we want to make sure it's accessible. I don't know. I'm making it up. But that's the opportunity for the council to shape something where it's more of an outcome. You know, you want it to be a welcoming space. I'm trying to use an analogy, and I hope that doesn't confuse any of the councillors that may or may not be listening. But that would be. But again, it's a judgment. We would bring that to you.
Okay, anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Moylan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you to the General Manager. Graham Jarvis from AEC, was his report considered technical?
General Manager.
Mr Mayor, we've answered that before, and yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Councillor Russell.
So, Mr Mayor, did you ever perceive that your original mayoral minute, we wouldn't get scopes like the AEC review brought to us where the outcomes impact on more than 10,000 people and or Shire-wide, and the impact is long-term?
Well, Councillor, we got the entire report, so I'm fine. I actually have trust that the General Manager and the team will deliver on the technical reports based on the budget that I resolve each year and the total pool of funding we give. I don't need to get into the weeds to that detail. I think the AEC report is very well done and it's available and publicly available to everyone. Should I have personally had input into every micro detail of what to feed into that? No, I don't believe I should, to answer your question.
I will, through you, Mr Mayor, I will change my original notice of motion to amend it to include, note that engineering and construction projects are excluded. So take out the not, yep.
Okay, seconder for that. Councillor Moylan, do you accept that, Councillor?
Yep,
Yep,
of course.
okay, that's yours. Okay, would else like to speak to this? Councillor Moylan.
So where that
Councillor
this is the
amended her
motion.
own motion and then accepted it, so it's, yep, on the motion.
I've got a
Sorry,
question.
Councillor Moylan first and we'll jump to you, yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. We've recently engaged a property services consultant. I've got two questions here. How much are we estimating to spend with that property services consultant? And secondly, why have we engaged the consultant before the $10 million land asset sale is endorsed as part of our budget?
General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and I'll ask the Director to respond to the second part. The Council resolved and they adopted. There's a bit of, I don't know, misinformation and mischief. So with the property policy came to the Chamber. The Council have adopted that property policy. In the financial strategy that the Council adopted in June 2025, that strategy also talks about looking at our assets and our property portfolio. So we're acting in accordance with Council's resolution on those specific two occasions. In relation to the engagement of a specialist in this area, I think, Councillor, you'd be aware we have a very lean property team of two staff. Those two staff do all the leases, licences, they do land acquisitions for easements, they do a whole range of property transactions. And I'm using the word transactions. They have not, with the greatest of respect, this council has not done strategic property management. Now, that was something in the policy you adopted, this council adopted, and it was something that this council adopted in the financial strategy. And as General Manager, I am progressing what this council has resolved. Ms Jones, would you like to speak any further to the property matter? No.
Okay, have any questions? Councillor Moylan.
I'll speak to this. I'd like to commend Councillor Russell once again for advocating for transparency and value for money for our residents. Councillor Russell has been relentless in this pursuit, and I applaud her for her perseverance and just simply doing the right thing. Now, with the motion that Councillor Russell has put forward, I will touch on a few elements to it. Firstly, transparency on spending. Let's be clear, we do not have line item detail in our budget. We do not have a finance committee. So to simply ask for some transparency on how we are spending residents' money on consultants is completely reasonable. Secondly, to the topic of scope. Now, I know as a lawyer that you are trained to look at not only what's in front of you, but what's not in front of you. So in order to do a good job for your client, you have to look at everything, even if you don't have it before you. And that's because the scope in front of you then determines your next action. And you must look at what is not in the scope to ensure that you are doing the very best job, in this case, for residents. But also on scope, it gets us thinking. If we can see the scope of the instructions to consultants, it gets us thinking, what's not in this scope? So we are thinking and leading and not just following. Now, the point of whether it's technical or not, well, why not? Why not include technical consultants in this notice of motion? Why not? And we've just heard that AEC, who have done a report, the scope of which seemed to be how much can we raise rates, is a perfect example. That is the scope.
So we have a point of order.
Clearly a misrepresentation of the financial sustainability engagement. There's nothing in that engagement which says the intent is to raise rates.
Thank you for clarifying. Councillor Moylan, please resume.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next point is very valid and that we all must strive to do, and that is keeping each other accountable for our actions. And Councillor Russell, through this notice of motion, is holding yourself, Mayor, to account for something you promised straight after election. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned trust, that you trust staff here. Well, trust is very endearing, but it's not the same as responsibility. Our role is to be responsible because we are holding residents' money in trust for them. And you can't just dismantle the Westminster tradition that we have where we are elected representatives separate from the bureaucracy. Now, these consultancy scopes in the notice of motion not only have a dollar figure, but they impact people of more than 10,000 people or Shire-wide. Now, when I look at 10,000 people, I want to make sure I know exactly what we've spent of their money, what the scope is, and what we're not doing, because I feel responsible and Councillor Russell feels responsible to them. And that is our role. We are elected by the people, the residents, and we are responsible to them. We are answerable to them. Now, as I was saying, trust is not what we're here for. Being responsible for residents' money is what we're here for. And I commend, once again, Councillor Russell for her relentless pursuit of this, and I look forward to this notice of motion getting across the line.
Thank you. Councillor Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak to this motion. I want to begin by acknowledging that the concerns raised by staff in relation to the motion in the report in our business papers, and I think those concerns deserve to be taken very seriously. Under the Local Government Act, there is a clear distinction between the strategic governance role of the elected council and the operational responsibilities delegated to the General Manager and staff. Councillors should not be managing procurements, directing technical staff, or interfering in operational decision-making processes. We rely on the professionalism, expertise, and integrity of our staff organisation. At the same time, elected councils councillors are not intended to be passive observers. We are democratically elected to set strategic direction, establish governance frameworks and provide oversight where decisions involve substantial public resources, long-term impacts or significant consequences for the community. Sometimes those strategic decisions involve consultancy work connected to technical or construction projects. Large-scale infrastructure, engineering, planning or technical projects can involve, as I understand it, very significant consultancy engagements with long-term financial and community impacts. And I believe it's entirely appropriate that council retain strategic visibility over those engagements where they meet the thresholds already established in this policy. However, I have concerns about the proposed wording in the motion. Note that technical and construction projects are not excluded from these provisions. My concern with this isn't actually about the intent, but it's with the breadth and the ambiguity of the language. As it's drafted, it risks implying that technical and construction projects generally, rather than consultancy services connected to those projects, are being brought into the scope of council endorsement. That creates uncertainty around operational boundaries and it risks blurring the distinction between governance oversight and procurement administration. I believe that we can achieve the intent of the motion in a way that's more precise, more legally robust and more respectful of the operational role of staff. For that reason, I propose an amendment. I've sent through the wording to Dr. Lidgard. And my amendment is for the last clause that has been added to the for number 2, to say instead, for clarity, this provision applies to consultancy services relating to technical or construction projects. Council's role under this clause is limited to strategic oversight and does not extend to operational procurement functions. Sorry. Technical is already taken out by the councillor.
Councillor Russell, do you accept this? No? Okay, this will need a seconder. Councillor Foley. Councillor Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To clarify, I believe this wording is a significant improvement because it clearly signals that this is an interpretive clarification rather than aggressive expansion of council powers. It keeps the focus specifically on consultancy services. It avoids broad and potentially vague language. It explicitly respects the operational boundaries established under the Local Government Act, and it acknowledges the authority, expertise and procurement responsibilities of the staff. Importantly, it preserves council's legitimate strategic oversight in relation to high-impact spending and matters of significant public interest, while avoiding any implication that councillors should become involved in operational procurement management. I think this strikes the appropriate balance between democratic accountability, transparency and respect for good governance principles.
Okay. Would else like to speak to this? Councillor Moylan.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. In 1A, we've got the value lifted. Is that intentional?
That was Councillor Russell's doing. Speak to this. Okay.
Sorry, I've got another question, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Champion. So point 2 limits this whole notice of motion to technical or construction projects, which undermines the whole thrust of this notice of motion. Are you comfortable with that?
Councillor Champion.
May I throw a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager on how you would interpret that? My understanding of my language is that the provision applies, but that does not mean solely applies to those.
Do you want me to put that to? No, Councillor, it's up to you to reply. Yeah.
Okay, well, may I please add the word also, so this provision also applies to consultant, sure, that's fine.
Or should it be debated and then... Sorry, pardon. We can add it in?
I accept that amendment.
Okay.
You're accepting it?
Yeah, I accept it.
Okay, so we've already had you deny it, so because you denied it and we're in the motion, then Councillor Champion's tried to amend amendment of an amendment. So let's take out the also, let's deal with this via a vote, and then we can reset, and then just to keep the procedure proper, we'll do that. So we'll get rid of that. So if everybody's comfortable, we'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Champion. All those against? Councillor Duffy, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Foley, Councillor King, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. So now we are back at the original motion. Now, Councillor Champion, would you like to raise another amendment? Sorry.
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. I would like to use the language used in my prior amendment with the change. I don't actually like also. I'd rather use this includes, if possible.
This includes, and Councillor Russell.
If I could just see it, that would help, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could I please finish the wording of my amendment before we move on, just so I have clarity on what's going on?
Yep.
Sorry, could we, instead of using the word also, could we have this provision includes consultancy services, including those related to, because also doesn't make sense because it doesn't relate to anything prior to that, so this is fine. Thank you.
Councillor Russell, you accept this. So this now becomes the motion. Councillor Moylan, you have a question?
No, with the amendment, it's sufficient now.
Okay. Okay, so this is now the main motion. There's been several people speak for and against, I believe. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Okay, we'll now put... Yep, right, reply, of course. Yep. Go, Councillor. Russell.
No, sorry. Mr Mayor, I've got a question through you to Councillor Champion. Are you intending that it's technical and/or construction projects?
Well, it's Councillor Russell's motion now, so your question needs to be to Councillor Russell.
Councillor Russell?
Thank you. We can, I will accept that change to the technical and/or construction projects.
So we have an amendment. Just get that up
From
there.
Councillor Moylan to put in an or.
And or, is that right?
And we need to remove point 2 and make point 3.2. Yeah.
Okay. So Councillor Russell, you're happy now?
Thank you. And I'd
Councillor
like
Moylan, that answers your question? Yes. Okay. Councillor Russell, you're right to reply.
Trust is earned. To build trust with our community at a time when we're considering pursuing a rate rise and increases in fees and charges across the board, I'm proposing we increase our transparency and accountability around how public money is spent on consultants. Oversight of briefs is a governance role, as the scope defines the outcome. Adopting this motion will build community confidence and trust in council.
Sorry, Councillor. Okay. I'll now put this motion. All those in favour? Councillor Champion, Councillor Russell, Councillor Moylan, Councillor Foley. All those against? Councillor Duffy, Councillor Farrell, Councillor Kent, Councillor Smith, Councillor Fitzpatrick. That is lost. That concludes our meeting at 7:12 p.m. Closed. Sorry.